What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and, well, anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey, guys, listen, if you're searching on the interwebs for another movie podcast, well, just stop what you're doing. Just stop searching. I'm surprised Google hasn't told you to stop searching, because if you stumbled across this one, this is the Definitive Movie Podcast. My co-host and I will dish everything out to you, and you'll be hooked. I'm telling you, you will be hooked on Joel's great personality. He puts my personality to bed. I'm like a wet sock on this one, and you know Joel's the energetic one. But no, if you have stumbled across this movie podcast, welcome, and all the returning listeners, welcome back once again. If you are new to the show, what we typically do is we'll go over some movie news and some movie trailers that drop throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys, and we will have a review of a movie coming out on the weekend. And Joel will have his mini reviews of something and, of course, box office results to accompany said movies. On this week's episode 217, we are going to be reviewing the new Clint Eastwood film, the 1517 to Paris. And Joel will have a mini review, and he will announce that when I throw it over to him. And so that is the topic of conversation. It will be an interesting one indeed, considering the competition I had around it and knowing that other movies in said competition ring might have rated higher than the movie we're about to talk about. But that's the least of its worries. So that is this week's show. And before I throw it over to my co-host over there, please like, share, whatever you guys have to do, spread this around and let people know this is the Definitive Movie Podcast. We want to make sure that this podcast goes viral like a virus, and we are okay with that because this is a good virus, Joel. And speaking of Joel over there and good viruses, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a quiet week for me because my car's in the shop. I'm getting the headlight fixed. I think it comes back tomorrow, so I've just either been at home or at work or seeing the 1517 to Paris. So that's pretty much where I've been this week, and not a lot of eventfulness took place. But how was your week?
First of all, your week sounds torture. Not with the headlight situation, seeing 15 to 17 in Paris. Whoops. All right, so yeah, so
it's interesting because it honestly looked like the best movie of the three. Like
I know.
In terms of the trailer, like it's very interesting that it's possibly the worst. I didn't see the other two, so I can't say that for a fact. But
guys, I'm just letting you know that it's going to be very weird to review a Clint Eastwood movie with the type of tone that we will have in our voice. But
yeah.
When we get to that, we'll have a lot of fun. But yeah, my week was pretty good. Just watching stuff on Netflix, some catching up on some shows, and finally saw Jumanji yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
To Joel's surprise, and it's just whatever. I know Joel sees at every moment to be like, that's the worst thing ever. It's whatever.
It's
folks.
The worst thing ever.
I'll tell you this. It's definitely not something I want to rewatch again. It's like a one and done thing. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm good with that.
For me, it was just the opposite of fun. I could never watch that movie. And
Well, I'm just letting you guys know from a different point of view. It's not the worst thing. I would actually rather watch Jumanji several times than the movie we're about to talk about. Once again, ramping it up.
I would slightly disagree. I don't like either of them, but I kind of hate both of them. But I guess giving away the game. Yeah. Let's just not. I mean, we'll review it.
At this point, I think people are just curious now because they're like, but why? Why do you guys maybe not hate it so much? I mean,
are you liberal anti-Americans? I don't know.
That's probably what we are. It's gonna be a fantastic discussion with probably a lot of hate comments. But yeah, and then of course I went to a wedding yesterday. I almost said last weekend. I was like, wait a minute, this is still the weekend, folks. So I just want to let you know that I might be a little sluggish, a little tired, and I'm gonna try to stay on top of my game. But Joel might have to carry my dead ass to the finish line, and that's where we're at, folks. But yeah, so I'm ready to get this started. Joel, before we begin, would you like to introduce the mini review that you got coming up after the 1517 to Paris?
Yeah, so we'll definitely hear some brief thoughts from Chase on this because it's one of our news topics, surrounding the release of it. But it's the Cloverfield Paradox. I'll give my full review, And obviously I'll get some brief thoughts from my esteemed co-host over there. But that'll be primarily mine this week. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when we talk about the news section, in case you were living under a rock, we'll explain to you this bananas marketing scheme. I probably one of the best I've ever seen. That doesn't reflect on the movie as a separate thing, but it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. But we'll explain that in just a second. But speaking of news, Joseph, let's go ahead and jump into that. Now, unfortunately, we have to start out with one of those tricky ones because, you know, when you look up to people in this industry for a long time, you start to paint an image in your head, and you're like, these seem like good people, good peeps I want to have like a drink with, or, you know, talk about whatever with, talk about life. And then when you kind of peel back the dirty curtains of Hollywood, and you realize that not everyone's perfect, and people have dirty pasts, and they've done some regrettable things that, you know, it's almost like, you know, having someone sit you down and tell you that, you know, Santa Claus is not real for the first time as a kid. It's like your whole world is just shattered and you don't know how to respond. So what am I talking about? Well,
I'm just kidding.
Oh, shit. Listen, guys, I forgot to tell you this. Joel just found that out. Joel, I'm sorry, but I will pay for your therapy lessons next week. So all right. Unfortunately, Harvey Weinstein likes to creep his, gross ass into our podcast, and I just want to kick him out. I want to ban him from this show, but this does, you know, it's not applying to him, but it, you know, it still involves him, unfortunately. So
it's sort of Weinstein adjacent, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it still involves his company, and it's just gross. And so Uma Thurman was speaking out in some interviews on you know, just events or around or wherever she's at, and so they asked her, you know, what's with the whole Harvey Weinstein situation and stuff, because she seemed angry. She was like, I am angry and I have a lot to say. So she finally kind of released her statement in terms of why she was angry. And of course, in the article, it mentioned Harvey Weinstein, you know, Joel, it was actual like assault, right? It wasn't just harassment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, we're talking like touchy type of stuff, and, you know, okay, so that's out of the way. Harvey Weinstein, gross. We're not going to talk about it ever again. But the second part of the story is where I am kind of confused on how I feel about it. And so there is a scene in, God, I'm just having so many brain farts today. It's Volume 1, correct?
I think it's Volume 1, yeah.
Okay, so in Kill Bill Volume 1, there is a certain car scene where Uma Thurman is in it, and she got injured while doing this stunt. Now, from her point of view, she said, you know, she approached Quentin about this scene and said, I don't want to do this. It looks unsafe. It's like a dirt road. It seems unpredictable. And she said the car was like, it wasn't, you know, built properly. And, you know, Quentin was like, you know, it's okay. We've tested and stuff. And she ended up getting injured from it. And these are actually lifelong injuries that she's having to deal with for, you know, the past 15 years. And so now this story is coming out, and she was saying that, you know, the producers and Quentin himself have just been kind of burying this and not really ever talking about it. So she approaches Quentin and says, can I have this footage so I can show people? And the footage is online of her in the car, and it looks like she knocked her head pretty hard, and it looked like, you know, a severe concussion. I'm going to let Joel go first, because I honestly don't know how to spin this, because it is one of those weird things to where, like, you know, I know Joel's not as enamored as I am with Mr. Tarantino, but he still likes his films, and so I'm just wondering, like, how do you approach this?
Yeah, it's confusing because, and obviously there's a lot of reasons not to take his word for it, considering the scene right now. You know, it's easier to believe Uma Thurman in this case, but he has had his side of it released, which is that he tested the car, that he genuinely thought that it was safe, and, you know, from her perspective, it was not a straight road that she was going to be driving in the car on, and that he tested it and it was safe beforehand, and that he regrets that mistake. But then, you had, kind of separately from this, his it's just not been a good week for him because he had the statement like released that he once said that Roman Polanski's the survivor of his abuse deserved it or whatever, and she was 13 at the time, and it's just a lot of stuff. But in the midst of all this is this very confusing two-sided story about whether or not he after years of animosity between them because of the stuff involving Weinstein and the fact that Tarantino kind of just told her not to, basically, snubbed his nose at her concerns after Pulp Fiction came out. The fact that, she felt that there was something intentional in his actions. He kind of says that there isn't. There definitely wasn't any of that. And it's a very heated situation. I'm not sure what to make of it either because there's a lot here that suggests, and I hate to say this because it's such a cop out, but a much younger Tarantino, somebody who didn't really understand a lot of, how serious a lot of this stuff was, and that's no excuse, but it might be a reason. Certainly not a justification, but again, might be a reason that genuinely there was on his part the lack of awareness about what he was doing. But then you have to take into account the fact that they fought for like 8 years before coming back together to do Kill Bill, and then this happens. It's a very strange situation, and I just kind of, this is one of those things where I was just wanting us to let people know to kind of form their own opinions, but I have various thoughts that don't really come together into anything that comes away with any sort of conclusion about this. It's just a lot of very confusing things, and yeah. So I don't know. It's weird. I'm like you on this.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what to say. I mean, I'm not gonna excuse Tarantino for pushing her to do this. Now, I mean, because this isn't something new. Actors sometimes do their own stunts, and sometimes it does not work out for the better. Sometimes they can. It's just we don't. At this point, Joel is correct. All I can say is this is a he said, she said thing. But in the climate that we're in now, and her being involved with those movies, and they were being produced by the scumbag company, you tend to believe her. And
yeah, because you can't completely count out the fact that considering the climate surrounding the Weinstein Company right now, with news about the NDAs that they signed, that they had to sign about harassment in order to work there again or even keep their reputation. And they couldn't sue anybody involved in the company if something like that happened. Anything like that, you can't count out the fact that there's something. There's always a question of intent, and it feels like I don't want to, without any evidence that he was a part of that scene, condemn Tarantino by saying that he was intentionally trying to seriously injure or kill her.
I don't think it was malicious intent. I don't think that.
I don't think that, but I mean, it's clear that Thurman sees it that way.
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue with that because we weren't there. And
Correct.
So, and that's another thing that we got to remember. And I know that everybody hates everybody who brings this up, but we weren't there. We don't know. It could be that the car was safe in the test. It could be the conditions changed between the test and the real thing. Anything like that is possible. I would want to know a lot more than we know right now about that particular thing. However, the other stuff, he kind of covered himself with the Polanski comment. He's like, well, I was just saying to be a devil's advocate, but that's nonsense. It was just stupid. It was just a
You're digging
stupid
yourself
comment.
into a deeper hole when you say that type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't, that stuff's a lot more disappointing than this story, but this story is pretty fascinating. Fascinating in a morbid, terrible way.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to see all this, kind of take some sort of shape. But still, I want to know more about this situation before coming to any conclusions. And I would personally urge our listeners to do the same thing, because there's a lot here that is not public. This is not nearly the complete picture of this on either side, really. On either side of the perspective. So it's very strange. I hope that this is the last time. Really, we're only going to bring up, Weinstein and his ilk if something particularly crazy happens. Like he just, got another lawsuit, I think today, from the New York Attorney General about civil rights violations. So,
wow.
Which I think makes it number like 700. I'm not sure, but in terms of the lawsuits.
Well, hey Joel, I am no police officer, but it sounds like to me this guy just needs to go to jail. I mean, at this point, it's just like take him out of his misery and just lock him up, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's I hate calling people guilty without any proof, but this many lawsuits, I mean, there's something to at least one of them, and particularly if there's like some other attorney general or multiple attorneys general who come up with any sort of lawsuits about civil rights violations. There's probably going to be one of those that's at least true, and I can imagine that all of them are true. So it's terrible. We try to not talk about this anymore because we want to talk about other things, but something insane happens every day. It seems like, although it seemed like we had a break there for a while. So we can,
like I say,
we can dream.
He slowly just crawls out of the butthole of society, and he has to inflict our.
I will say, I am, with the Quentin and Uma stuff, I'm, confused about all of it except for one thing: the fact that the New York Times piece was a load of crap. The writer Maureen Dowd, I think it was New York Times or New York, whatever, the paper that she was being interviewed for, was basically just a Vanity Fair piece that happened to be put somewhere else. It's some of the worst journalism of the year. Anyway.
Well,
in a while, especially right now, we need good journalism, and that piece was not it.
No, but you know what, Joel? It's one of those things to where like it's depressing and it's something we need to talk about. But there are some good things out there, and I don't know if Joel knows this, but when I watch the Super Bowl, I love to just like stuff myself with food and relive my fat days from being a kid, and it's just absolutely glorious. And so, Joel, what happened this past Super Bowl? Because I mean, it was a good game. I used to play football as a kid, and so I enjoy a good sports game. But there was a particular commercial that kind of caught everyone off guard. What was that?
I actually missed the commercial. I found out after. But I was working until past the kickoff. And then I came home like in the midst of it. So,
gotcha.
Anyway, I didn't actually see any of the movie trailers except for the solo trailer teaser in the moment. Like I saw pretty much everything else after the fact. But yeah, so I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing happened. Oh. I'm just kidding.
So wait. So Netflix didn't want to drop a movie after the game? Oh, okay, we must be talking about something else. I was, miscommunication, folks.
Yeah. So this is pretty insane. In the midst of the game, it was announced via the trailer for the movie that the Cloverfield Paradox would be dropped onto Netflix right after it ended. So, wow. All right. Here's here's the flood of thoughts that entered my head
Uh-oh.
immediately.
Here we go.
Yeah, so we slightly differ on how awesome this is. I think it is a pretty interesting coup for Netflix to do something like this, but Scott Mendelson over at Forbes, I think it was him, put it really well. Basically, they just released the pilot to a TV series that will never happen after the Super Bowl, which is what every single TV station does, or not every single. Obviously, the TV station that hosts it always does that. So really, it's not all that special. I mean, it's for a movie, and so it kind of gives that movie an interesting aura of being this like thing that we saw a trailer, which really, I mean, it wasn't even a trailer, it was sort of an announcement.
Yeah.
That happened to have a few images from the movie, but half of those images were from the 2008 movie. So, it's, I guess, interesting that they did this, but honestly, I don't think that this should ever happen again. The reason is that, part of now, okay, I'm sort of two minds here because I really, 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 really hate the expectations that are built by a trailer. We cover trailers on the show, and that's fun, but I don't put any stock into any of them. I'm just going to say that. And also, I don't generally like the sort of the, I'm going to use the word again, the aura surrounding trailers in terms of them being expectations builders, because for me, expectations have been way, way, way too prioritized, especially in the last 20 years or so. Trailers are editing props. They're advertisements. That's all they are. They build expectations, but the movie is what it's. Wow, I cannot speak tonight.
Wait, who was the one that partied last night? Me or you, Dan?
I know, right? Is what is important. Yeah, the movie is what is important to me. Not so much the trailer. It's fun to see like the directors who edit their own trailers, like PTA does that. I don't know if he did that on Phantom Thread. I assume he did, but I know he does. He likes to. I think Darren Aronofsky does that too. So I like it when that stuff happens because that it's the actual filmmaker that's kind of messing around with their the entire movie and figuring out a way to sell it in an interesting way. That's fun, but when it's a PR company, I could care less. I couldn't care less. So that's my the one side of my thought. The other side of my thought is that it still does that job of kind of building up an audience. And when you have something like this, the story becomes about, instead of it becoming about the trailer and how good it is, it becomes about how sudden the release is. And so in either direction, you have this story that is not the movie's quality. Because I see a lot of reviews and have heard a lot of reviews that have put a lot of weight on to the fact that the Cloverfield Paradox was that one movie where, basically nobody saw any footage from it before it was released. And you know how you could also do that is by not watching any trailers for anything ever. You could just make the decision. It's not one that Chase and I could make. I mean, I guess we could if we dropped the segment, but it's not really one that we can make right now. But really anybody could just choose not to watch trailers, and it would be the same difference. So it's not really like some gigantic, huge thing. It's just an interesting way in our current climate of releasing a movie. I also don't think that it was particularly worthy of this movie. We'll get into my own thoughts later. I think that Chase kind of agrees. I know that he was a little higher on it than I am, but you're like in the C+ range, right? That's what
I mean, once you kind of cool down a little bit, we're kind of in the same range.
Yeah, pretty much. I came away initially kind of angry, and I'll go over that later on. But certainly, it was.
It's definitely underwhelming. I will just say that
it was underwhelming, and it's just one of the again, the story becomes about not about the fact that it's an underwhelming movie, but about the fact that it's this movie that nobody saw coming, and that's a separate thing. And so, for me, a review should just stay a review, talk about the movie's plot, how it progresses, and all the other different technical aspects, and how it makes you feel, what it talks about, how it talks about whatever it talks about, in terms of themes and stuff. Make that your review. Don't turn it into this big 3-paragraph tribute to Netflix, because guess what? Netflix was barely involved in this movie. They released it, and they bought it for $50 million apparently, but because they have millions of dollars in their pockets. But it was Paramount. They made this movie, and they're the ones who took it on first before Netflix. They were going to be distributing it if not for the fact that apparently we're not interested in this, which gives me interesting, because we have another one coming this year apparently. So the World War II drama, Overlord. If that's probably not going to be its name, but
Joel, if you've known anything from this marketing campaign for this franchise, that's not going to be the title.
Yeah. It wasn't The Cellar. It was 10 Cloverfield Lane. It wasn't God Particle. So yeah, I think that it's. I'll give it over to Chase, because I know that he likes this more than I do. But anyway, and then I have a lot of thoughts about how the name is very ironic for this, the name for this movie, and it's sort of tied to this, the fact that they kind of blew up this, it's Cloverfield. You liked Cloverfield, remember, guys? You liked 10 Cloverfield Lane when we dropped it on you unawares. But yeah, we'll talk about how much of a Cloverfield movie this is in my review. But yeah, so I'll hand it over to you, Chase. What were your thoughts? I know you slightly deviate from me.
Yeah,
so.
It's one of those weird things to where I expect it from this franchise now, or they do like these, kind of like sudden release schedules. And I will just say this, because this actually ties into both movies we're talking about tonight. I don't know why people will put the release strategy of Netflix in the review. Just review it as a movie. When I saw that movie, I could care less if Netflix released it or whatever. I viewed it as another installment in this franchise, and I took it from that standpoint. It's the same thing with 15 to 17 in Paris, and how I've seen a lot of people will excuse the movie's problems because it's patriotic. And it's the same issues I had with American Sniper and Sully, and that's the way Clint Eastwood's going. But we'll get to that, shortly. But that has nothing to do with the movie. I like it because that is something of a Cloverfield movie. That's something a Cloverfield movie would do. I could care less and address it in my review. It's just more of like, cool, I'll get to watch it tonight. And listen, if you're going to drop 50 mil in this movie, honestly, this was probably the best strategy to go for it, because they spent a lot of money on it, and if you're going to go balls to the wall with it, you might as well do something like that, where it's like, hey, because Joel's right, it's not a trailer, it's just more of an announcement. Like, hey, if you are still up and not tired from all the alcohol from the game, come over to Netflix and watch this movie. And,
which worked, because everybody except for like me, I guess, watched the movie right after. So
yeah, and I will say this, like just to, I guess, give away my thought. I mean, Joel already said we're kind of like in the middle of the road for it, but, I want to see this franchise grow because it's so different than anything else that is out there right now in terms of anthology stuff. And the one thing I've always appreciated is its marketing campaign. It's different. It's something that comes out of nowhere. We don't expect it, and I think that it's fun. I don't take any stock into it. It's just like, cool, that's fun. I get to see it after the game. That's just another bonus for me. Hey, listen, I mean, if you think about it, like, people that are angry about this, just keep in mind, if you are furious about, this release strategy, Netflix, probably dropped around $60 million for the rights to distribute it and the marketing. So, you know what? They're kind of the losers in the long run because they blew a lot of money. So even if you hate the movie, it's like, cool, that's on them. It's like, I thought it was fun. It's whatever. And it got me excited to watch it because, you know, we knew, because at this point we knew that Netflix was going to release it. We just didn't know when, and so that was just kind of like a nice little surprise at the end of the week. And, you know, I will say this about the Cloverfield paradox before we go into the next story. I think when you compare it to some of the movies that came out this weekend, people were a little too harsh on it. That's all I will say. Because I remember, because I didn't watch the Cloverfield paradox until 2 days later. Most of all the people I follow, including Joel, already watched it. And so everyone, maybe a couple here and there, were like, man, that was great. I liked it. Most people hate it. So I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And, you know, I walked away going, okay.
Almost everyone on my feed hated it. So it was interesting.
But just real quick, and then we'll move on. To all those reviewers out there that want to put, you know, this extra padding of, like, you know, the Netflix release, it's so fresh and so vibrant, and that's why I liked it. No, don't do that. It's the same thing with the Paris movie. Like, just you're
basically, particularly with that, you know, talking about the Netflix thing, much more than the patriotism of the questionable patriotism, I should say.
Yes.
Of 1517 to Paris, you're basically just advertising for Netflix. Like that's what you're doing, and I hate that. I realize that reviews are to some degree advertisements for the movie, but they're really just advertisements telling you that the movie exists. And when you move over into this thing where you actually congratulate a studio for doing something, you know, vaguely you know, with some vague ingenuity, it's a little weird to me. You're just kind of, you know, like, oh hey, you know, I mean, send me your next movie to review. It's just like, it's very weird.
It's very desperate, and I don't, because Joel made a good point. I believe he was talking to me and Brian about it. It's like, do we bring up in reviews, like when we review a Marvel movie, like, oh, that Marvel Studios? It's like, we don't. We criticize the movie. It's like, it's just so weird to bring up the studio in the review. But
I would say that, you know, there's a slightly different feeling that an audio review, like what we do, and a written review, there's a difference between them. So, like, introducing a Marvel movie, you might talk about how
that's not a part of the review, though. That's just more of like a kind of a ramp up introduction. Yeah,
exactly.
Whatever.
So,
but Netflix, listen, Cloverfield, keep doing your weirdo marketing strategies because I love it. I know Joel's a little bitter old man over there, but there's people out there that are crazy like me that enjoy that.
Get off my lawn, kids. I'm just kidding.
Speaking of getting off my lawn, Clint this next one is fascinating. So there was a couple months ago, I believe, maybe, I don't even know how long ago it was, where we said that Todd Phillips was going to kind of do a Joker movie, and little Marty Scorsese was going to be behind it as well, not director or anything, just more of like a EP producer kind of, you know, overlooker on it. And so we had no idea where that was going to go. And, you know, of course, this was way before the Justice League came out. So, you know, DC was hyped. They had a bunch of stuff ready to announce. And then, of course, Justice League kind of fizzled out and made less money than Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. Let that sink in. And so, obviously, they had to kind of reformat their release strategy a little bit for their movies. And, you know, there's actually 2 stories in a row that we're about to get to. But this one, the Joker movie, Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix is being eyed to play him. We already had our thoughts. Well, listen. We already had our thoughts.
That hesitation is exactly right.
Well, yeah. I mean, we already have our thoughts on the movie in general. It's like, whatever. I'm one of those few people that actually like Todd Phillips. I'm not saying all the movies he does is great, but as his career has advanced, he's kind of delved into more kind of dark comedy. And I really appreciate that. He started with The Hangover 2. Due Date was kind of in the same ballpark. Hangover 3, War Dogs. I believe he's kind of, in an odd way, like he's maturing as he keeps on going. And I think War Dogs is probably the best thing he's ever done. And there's moments of brilliance in that movie where he's able to blend these kind of real life scenarios with this dark comedy. And when you think about it, that's kind of like what the Joker is, and in that type of environment. So it makes sense director wise and character wise. I don't really care to see it, to be honest with you, but if it's coming out, whatever. The Joaquin Phoenix thing. Okay, I mean, I like Joaquin Phoenix. I no joke, I will literally watch anything with him in it. Because I do believe that even if it's something like this, he could possibly elevate it to another level. Now, I said the same thing when Jared Leto was cast as the Joker for Suicide Squad, and I had optimism that was immediately crushed to pessimism as soon as I walked out of that movie. So, I mean, it's very possible that I could switch on this. But as right now, if this thing actually comes through, sure. I gotta see it in action, though. I gotta see makeup design. I gotta see clothes or costumes. I gotta see how he moves. I gotta see how he talks. But if we're gonna be casting specific actors for this role, I like Jared Leto. He's done some fine work in his career. But make no mistake, Joaquin Phoenix is way better. My actual question to this whole story is, if this actually comes out, how does this affect the universe as it is right now? Like, what happens to Jared Leto? God, it's just panic button. They just love to hit that panic button and show the world that they don't know what the hell they're doing. So, Joel, when crazy stuff like this comes out, do you just have to sit there, sip your hot tea, and go, "Damn, that was weird"?
That's pretty much exactly my thought. It's so bizarre. My understanding is that Jared Leto will still be the Joker in the DCEU. I think this is a standalone. I don't know what that means, honestly.
I don't think DC knows what that means.
I don't even know. I don't know how you could make a standalone of this without including the Batman in some way, and then you have, I don't know. It's very strange. But the Todd Phillips thing, I don't particularly care about that. I don't have an opinion on the guy, to be completely honest. But the Joaquin Phoenix thing is bizarre because, okay, one of his best friends was Heath Ledger. And that was actually kind of one of the reasons why he, in addition to making a documentary, he kind of had this strange, kind of crisis of conscience after Heath Ledger's death, and that's when he started doing all the weird interviews. And that was obviously part of a documentary, but part of the documentary was kind of exploring celebrity after it kind of reaches this weird place of uncertainty and all that. And that was a response to Heath Ledger's death. And Heath Ledger passed away, I am convinced, as sort of a direct result of, I'm not going to blame him for his death. I don't do that, and I don't think that saying this means that I'm blaming him for his death. But the method that he took as a method actor to playing this role, I feel kind of ultimately led to his death, because it was a point where he was living alone and he started to take antidepressants, and those were what he accidentally overdosed on because he was taking two different kinds. They didn't mix well, and it was as a direct result of him playing this role and getting ready for it by remaining in solitude for so long. And then you had Jared Leto come in, and he's a method actor as well, so he decided to send used anal beads and condoms to his castmates.
Yeah, that's like a completely different scenario.
It's a completely different scenario, but it's two extreme results of method acting.
Yeah.
Guys, Joaquin Phoenix is a method actor, and he is probably a more, he's a more intensive one, even than they are. We haven't really seen it because he hasn't played a lot of roles that require a method that causes him to do things for a long period of time to prove himself for a role. but he completely invests all of his body and soul into a role. And I'm not just talking about how he's a good actor. I'm talking about literally. That's what he does. That's part of his method. So
is this more of like a
this is
safety
gonna
thing
be
for you?
what?
Is this more like a safety thing for you?
Yes, I believe that method actors should not play this role.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Jack Nicholson, he's not a method actor. He didn't do any of this stuff, and he didn't do it after this role, after he played the Joker either. But he has admitted, he's told people. In fact, he warned Heath Ledger about this before he played the role, that it changes you. Whatever you think about yourself, you're going to think about yourself differently after you play the Joker. Jack Nicholson does not give the same performance now, post Batman, that he did before then. You don't watch Five Easy Pieces and The Departed and see the same actor. And you see a great actor, but you don't see an actor who acts the same. You don't see an actor who's doing the same things. And that is because of the Joker. He was never the same, and he talked about that. He did not enjoy playing that role. He enjoyed working with the other actors. I know that he had a good time generally on set, but he did not enjoy playing the Joker because every time he tried to go at all deeply into the role, he went too deep into it. It's such a psychotic role that it changes you. And when you're already a method actor, that's a dangerous proposition. We've seen it happen twice. Somebody, spent so much time with himself that it caused him to take medicine for it. Another person sexually harassed his castmates. We've seen this destroy people, and it's not a good thing. And I feel dirty bringing this up. I feel dirty, but you have to invest all of your emotion into dark, dark, dark thoughts. And, where is Joaquin Phoenix going to go to find those? Is he going to go to the death of River Phoenix? And is he going to stew in that for a while? He's had some other terrible things that have happened to him. What's going to happen, And I worry about any sort of method actor taking on this role. So certainly the involvement of him in terms of him being a great actor makes me about 1,000 times more interested in seeing it, but I don't want it to happen. I don't think that it would be good for him. And I'm very, very hesitant about all of this.
Well, that is definitely an interesting takeaway. I didn't think you were going to go down that route, but I mean, as you keep talking about it, I can't refute these facts. It's true. I mean, you hear about the Jared Leto, what he did. We know what Heath Ledger did, and it's like, now that you bring that up, now you're switching me to your side. Maybe no one should play this role ever again, because I mean, we've had too many instances now where it's like, I don't know about this, so okay.
Yeah, or maybe only actors should play him in an animated form because as far as we can tell, it hasn't done anything to Mark Hamill.
No.
And I don't think it did anything to Cesar Romero. I haven't heard anything. The first actor, he was live action, but it may have been that was so cartoonish there was no, opportunity to go deep into that role. So yeah, I think that it's a losing battle. I think that it is literally, well, I don't know about the one role that nobody should play, but I think that at least on the evidence, it's probably the most destructive role anybody could play, and that includes even real monsters like Hitler, because I haven't heard anybody go insane from playing Hitler. Or even a Nazi. Like, I don't think that anything long-term happened to Ralph Fiennes after the Schindler's List. So, yeah, I just don't think anybody should play this role. to be completely honest. I think that we have our definitive screen performance, and that is Heath Ledger. But, even then, at what cost? And now here, another actor who invests himself arguably even more into a role with, a darker past than Heath Ledger had. It doesn't seem like. I mean, it would be like Keanu Reeves taking on the role too. Except he's not a method actor, but still, the role changes you. So, with Keanu Reeves' even more tragic past, I just don't think that any actor with particular emotional baggage, or any potential emotional baggage, it's just yeah. I think it's a destructive role.
Well, I mean, you heard that, Warner Brothers. If you were listening, I don't think you are, but if you are listening, it sounds like this is a warning from Joseph over there, and it sounds like we're going to have 2 warnings for you, because the next story, Michael Bay doing a Lobo... No. Joel, what are your thoughts? Listen,
yeah, okay.
Here's the deal. I could care less if a Lobo movie is made, because, let's be honest, if a Lobo movie is made, and that's the actual title of the movie... It's just downright hilarious. It sounds like a clown movie, and it's like, okay, whatever. The Michael Bay thing. Here's why I've given up on this guy. Now, granted, I never saw 13 Hours. I know Joel has, so he can speak on that. But every time when I see a Transformers movie or any movie that he's involved in, it just seems like he does not care anymore. And I don't know why people keep hiring him. And yes, all those people yelling at me right now. I get that this business is based on monetization. It's whatever you've done for me last. But when you look at Michael Bay's history in the past 5 years, his numbers are declining. So even if you make a lot of money on those Transformers movies, he has a decline on that franchise and you still want to hire him. As a business move, that sucks. What are you thinking? And not only that, Lobo, when you read into the character, he kind of has that gothic feel, kind of like a Ghost Rider. And why would you want Michael Bay to bring that vision to life? It makes no sense to go to this man whose numbers are declining as we speak. Why? I don't get it. And here's what Michael Bay needs to do. And I'm being completely honest. I mean this with all good intentions, because I do believe there is a director inside of him that can create entertaining pieces and nothing more, and I'm fine with that. But he needs to take a break. Go away for a while. Take a breather. I mean, Mikey, you made a crap ton of money on those Transformers movies, and you're still going to make money as the years to come with royalties and stuff. Go take a vacation. Go do something. Take your mind off of the Hollywood, mindset. Go take a vacation, come back, and try something again. But this sounds like a horrid idea. It's almost like Warner Brothers loves harming themselves. When you see Justice League underperform, we're going to do a complete rehaul, guys. We're going to change everything up. Oh, the Lobo movie? Michael Bay. All right, moving on. Next project. It's it's almost like there was no thought put into it. It's like they just drew a name out of a hat. So this is a simple no. Joel, thoughts? Question mark.
Could not care less about anything regarding this. I don't think the character sounds interesting, even especially the name, but just the character. They're hoping that it's Deadpool for the DCEU, and I don't care if there's a Deadpool in the DCEU. I mean, I'm definitely more interested in Michael Bay when he's R-rated than when he's PG-13, and this is certainly going to be PG-13. I want him to direct Bad Boys for Life. That's all I've ever wanted. But that's probably only me, because I love Bad Boys 2, and it seems like nobody else does.
That's what I'm saying. He's good.
Yeah.
In that R-rated kind of over-the-top space. But when he's bastardized with these PG-13 movies, it kills him.
Yeah, there's a certain bombasticness to his filmmaking style that the R rating like respects. Even 13 Hours, even if it was, sort of a political combat movie, he was able to go R rated with it and depict the violence that happened. That's, him in serious mode, but even stuff like the, Bad Boys 2, you've never, ever, ever seen anything like the highway chase, because it's so completely balls to the wall. But here it's just like I don't get the Michael Bay factor of this character. I don't understand. I mean, unless there's something I'm missing. I will admit right now, I had never heard of the character before this story came out. So I don't know anything about it. I don't know if he's like this character whose work leads to a lot of situations where we get a lot of pyrotechnic, Michael Bay-ness in the action scenes. I maybe, but on the surface of it, it just seems like this kind of one-trick pony character who has a single thing about him, and that's he's sarcastic, and that he's a mercenary, and that's about it. Like, and he's 7 feet tall and he's blue. I don't really care. I don't care. I don't think that this is the place that they should go if they're trying to rethink. I assume that this is going to be in 2020, probably in their phase 2 plan or whatever. Not official phase 2, like Marvel phase 2. I'm talking about like their plan B kind of.
Joel's a Marvel fanboy.
Yep. My number 1 and number 2 of 2018 are Avengers and Black Panther. Okay, so no, but I don't care. I don't care a single.
The way that you pitched that comic book character, like, you should just pitch comic book characters in general. It sounds like you had so much passion behind it. You're like, I don't know, he's like 7 feet tall. He's like blue.
He's blue.
I don't know. And they're just
he's
like,
a mercenary.
Yeah, they're just like, Mr. Copling, are you sure? Are you sure that's what character you want? Yeah, I don't know. Just call him like Lobo or something. I don't know. Like, it sounds like, the bottom of a shoe. I don't know. Just call him whatever. Oh, thank you, Mr. Copling. We'll create him right away. It's like so.
Lobo, a Star Wars story.
Oh my God. Oh, we'll get to that shortly. But this next story will go by so quickly that you're gonna wonder what happened. So, all right. The next one is that one of my favorite movies, that will be one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it 3 times now. It just keeps getting better and better. Because I said it when I reviewed it. And I'll say it again. It's one of the best superhero movies ever, Logan. And director James Mangold, now an Oscar nominee. That's interesting. He directed Logan. He co-wrote it, and he was behind the PG-13 Japanese, the Wolverine, which was okay at best, and it's just so funny.
It was terrible, guys.
Well, Joel didn't like it, but it's just funny that it was a complete turnaround to Logan. It's like, this is the same guy. So, but after watching Logan, it seems like Mr. Mangold is, a lot more better in the realm of R-rated and just kind of have more creative freedom. So, in the business, like I just said, of what have you done for me last? Logan was his last thing. I get psyched about anything he does now. So, his next project that he's got coming up from 20th Century Disney Fox is, Joel, did you see what I did there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm just making sure you caught the joke. All right, so he is tapped to do the Ford versus Ferrari movie. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's the creators of Ford and Ferrari basically competed to create the fastest race car, or sorry, it was Speedster, right, or something like that.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, something like that. As you can tell, Joel and I, we're not we don't sink ourselves into the world of racing. But this is one of those famous stories to where, yes, if you go do more research on it, please do not just take our word for it and move on. When you do look this stuff up, it is fascinating to see the kind of rivalry that they had. And you know what? It sounds cool. And I believe when we were talking about this story the last time, Joel, Michael Mann was attached to it?
Yeah, I think this is the movie that he was attached to, yeah.
Yeah,
which he kind of fell out of for various reasons, but...
Well, I mean, yeah, I think this is a great follow-up because it's like, James just did Logan for 20th Century Fox, and that, did extremely well for him, so makes sense.
And
they'll
be able to pimp out that connection. They'll say from the director of Logan.
Oh, I know. Oh,
yeah.
and if Logan wins the Oscar, he can put Oscar winner.
Yeah,
Academy Award winner,
or at least Academy Award nominee.
Yeah, yeah, at the very least. So he's already got like that Academy Award clout on him, which is great.
And if they like pair up something with Logan to say from the director of Logan, and I really hope they choose 3:10 to Yuma to get that movie back in the because I love that movie. So anyway,
it almost seems like I'm glad you brought that up because it almost seemed like when you hear about this story, it's going to kind of have. Not the same pacing, but kind of like that same, I don't know, kind of same feel to 3:10 to Yuma, where I don't know, it's like a really, I don't know how, like when you brought that movie up, I was replaying it in my head. I'm like, I can see him kind of making this movie kind of in the tone of that.
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm cool with this. I have nothing more to say.
Cool. Well, that's pretty much it. I'm a fan of the.
You're like, all right.
I'm honestly I don't have many thoughts. You pretty much summed them up. So that's the end of our news segment. Let us know what your favorite.
Was the last,
yeah, this is probably the best. Yeah. Because the first two were just kind of discussions. Two of them are weird, and there you go. All right. So, Chase, do you want to introduce the first trailer? Trust me, we have 4 big ones, but we kind of have a smallish one, mid-budget, if you will, to talk about first. So, Chase, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. So when Joel was doing the notes and he sent me over the trailer list, obviously I knew some of the ones he was going to mention, but I didn't know this one came out, so I had to watch it tonight to obviously talk about it. And this one's called Disobedience, which is from Bleecker Street. And just a quick synopsis, a woman returns to the community that shunned her for her attraction to a childhood friend. Once back, their passions reignite as they explore the boundaries of faith and sexuality. So this is a lesbian love story that's set in a Jewish community, so it does exactly what the synopsis says, where it's going to play with faith and sexuality and just kind of exploring your sexuality and just love and romance, and I like it. It stars, Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams, and a guy that suspiciously looks like Darren Aronofsky with a beard. It freaked me out because I was like, why is Rachel Weisz's ex-husband in this movie? Like, it makes no sense. But then when the credits roll, it's like, okay, that makes more sense. But no,
Alessandro Nivola. Yeah, he does look quite a bit like.
It's freaky. And that is Weiss's ex-husband. They have a child together, so I was just like, that's super awkward. But this is based on a novel. The director of this is actually has directed a Oscar-nominated picture in the foreign film category for this year, A Fantastic Woman. So, and that one is actually coming to Dallas here pretty soon. So Joel and I will have that for you guys. And I've never seen any of this director's movies, but I saw the trailer to A Fantastic Woman. I'm already intrigued because it looks absolutely wonderful, and I want to check it out. And so is this one. I've been a fan of McAdams and Weisz, the Rachels, which is I don't know. I wonder if that was actually a part of not a part of the marketing strategy, but like, if this was ever brought up, like the fact that they were both named Rachel, like I'm sure someone had to say, like, is this good for marketing? Like, should there be 2 Rachels? Like, so whatever. That's behind the scenes. But in terms of the actual trailer, yeah, it looks like exactly what the first quote in the trailer describes: a forbidden love. I'm always a fan of like those forbidden love stories where like someone is married to someone else, someone comes into the picture, and someone in the married couple is attracted to outsider. And they start, this steamy romance behind someone's back, not because they are malicious to the person. Sometimes it's the case if, they abuse them or whatever, but it's more along the lines of that is a loveless relationship, and they need to find their, their romance with someone that they are actually attracted to. I'm always a fan of those stories because that always brings out the best in people in terms of loving who you want to love and not loving what society wants you to love. and there's just something kind of, beautiful about that. But also, this trailer plays out like a thriller, which is really cool. It kind of combines those two, and I like these two actresses, and it's just always funny to me when I see Rachel McAdams in any movie where she plays a more serious role like this and go, wow, this is the same girl who was 1 in The Notebook and 2 Regina George in Mean Girls. And it's just
in the same year.
Exactly. It's like
same year.
I can't believe that she's evolved to this point where, I've always liked her and always enjoyed seeing her. But it's just nice to see her career kind of progress into where she can come out with a movie like this and people can take her seriously. Because I know that it's not her fault, because Mean Girls is pretty much pop culture icon candy. And so when people see Rachel McAdams, they automatically think of Regina George or the chick from The Notebook. It's not her fault. It's just like those movies were popular. But I'm glad that she does smaller stuff like this. And Rachel Weisz, I don't need to explain any more about her because she's fantastic. So, Joel, is this a movie that will be on your radar?
Yeah, it's weird because I thought that, the weekend that we're doing our summer preview, I was thinking nothing comes out. And this actually comes out. I didn't even know that it was that weekend. This is not only the director's second movie this year, it's his second of 3, because not the first one, but the first one that kind of put him on people's radar was a movie called Gloria, which came out a few years ago, and he's remaking it with Julianne Moore, and it comes out in the midst of Oscar season. So he'll be in the Oscar season twice in a row. I think A Fantastic Woman looks great. I think that this looks really good. It's everything you said. It's going to explore these ideas in this very oppressively religious, community, and it looks like it's going to knock it out of the park. The actresses look great. I hear that it's a good movie, so I'm excited for it. And you know what else I'm excited for? Generally speaking, talking about all of the trailers, whether or not I'm excited for the movies or not. So our first trailer that kind of broke, that was gigantic and huge, was Mission Impossible Fallout. This is the 6th movie in the franchise that I love. I love pretty much all of the movies so far. So, and my second one is my favorite is the second one. So deal with that. I love that movie, and nobody can tell me otherwise. That
Joel, this is a safe place. You don't have to explain yourself. If you want to love it, you can love it.
Thank you. He's going to talk about me behind my back now. Okay.
No, I'll talk about you on air, so
okay.
Everyone can hear it.
Oh, great. Yeah, the second one's my favorite. I know it's everybody else's least favorite, or it seems like it is. But I love it. But I love all of these movies. I think that they're tons of fun. Just everything about them it just hits the marks for me. And this looks like it's going to continue that. It looks terrific from an action standpoint. It comes from, I believe, isn't it the same director as the last one?
Yeah, Chris McQuarrie.
Pretty sure about that. So he was the guy who did the first Jack Reacher, and he kind of mopped the floor with that one with Rogue Nation. I did not like Jack Reacher, but I loved Rogue Nation. I think Fallout looks terrific. You get to see Henry Cavill's mustache, his infamous mustache. Now it's a beautiful thing. And it just looks like a total ride. It's gonna be terrific, and it looks like it's taking itself in directions that we aren't anticipating too. So I'm excited for that, and I can't wait to see what is up the sleeves of everybody involved. Were you a fan of this one?
All right, so just a little history on the franchise, and I'll bring this up when we review it. But I enjoyed the first two; they're fun. The first one I saw in theaters was the third one, and of course directed by J.J. Abrams. Going back to Cloverfield, and I really enjoyed it. Philip Seymour Hoffman was the villain. I just thought it was a lot of fun. I was like, this is the E Square type of movie where it's espionage entertainment, and that's all it is, and that's all it needs to be. And so when the fourth one comes out, you know, like Joel said, with every installment, it takes it into a new direction. And you're like, I'm okay with this because they keep trying to up the ante. Well, in terms of action and stunts, but also just how deep into the story can we go? And you know, with Ethan Hunt and you know his band of misfits, if you will. And so, Rogue Nation comes out. Definitely my favorite one of the franchise so far, and one of my most memorable double feature days. I still remember it. I saw Mission Impossible Rogue Nation in the morning. I got jacked up. I was like, wonderful, because I was doing that one and Vacation for the episode that week. I saw Vacation afterwards, and it was absolutely horrendous. And so I was like, wow, I started out on a high. I ended on such a low that I could literally lick the ground. Like, I felt so low that I shrunk. Like, it was just awful. But anyways, this trailer. First things first. I am a man who can acknowledge attractiveness in women and men. Henry Cavill, you look pretty damn good with the mustache there. Keep it. Actually, I mean, but Joel's correct, though. It's hard to not mention the mustache because of its infamy around the Justice League. But yeah, no, he looks great. I'm excited to see him kind of go beyond, playing Superman. Yes, I am aware he's been in other stuff, but I did not see The Man from U.N.C.L.E. My bad. I love me some Armie Hammer as well. I just didn't get around to it. It's not because I didn't want to. But I've always enjoyed his portrayal as Kal-El and Superman in that franchise. He's one of the glowing, spots in the DCEU. And so adding him was great. Don't need to talk about Tom Cruise. The guy is, in real life, he is a whack job. But you know what? We're talking about his movies, and he is entertaining as hell. I love watching him in anything he does, whether it be drama, action. That's pretty much all he does. But no, he needs to do more stuff. But action is his wheelhouse, and I can respect the man for wanting to do his own stunts. The Dubai scene and the fourth one, my God. The Rogue Nation plane thing, my God. And now this one, it's like, Tom, stop. Like you're giving me anxiety at this point. So, but it's cool that he has fun with these movies. He always likes to entertain you and put in 110% because he has said that many times to where like he just likes doing it. He just likes, showing off and giving people at home the real deal. And I have nothing but respect for that. As far as the actual story goes and the way it looks better than Rogue Nation. And it's just one of those weird things where it just keeps getting better and better. I didn't think anything could top the fourth one. Rogue Nation comes out. Well, hot damn, that's my new one. It's my new favorite one. It's the fifth one. This one could look like it could be the next best one. So I like the direction they're going. And I want to see more. As long as they keep making them good and they keep advancing and just going crazier and crazier while still making it, stylish and comprehensible to watch, and it's not, ridiculous PG-13 action, it's more sophisticated action. You do it. You can go to Mission Impossible 20 retirement home, and I will still watch it. To have Ethan Hunt roll around in a wheelchair, just like, I'm going to come get you. It's just, I don't care. Just keep on going.
I should just tell people, like, the lowest grade that I've ever given a movie in this franchise is the B+ that I gave the first movie.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, that gives you an idea. And I gave an A to the second and then an A- to the other three. So, I mean, it's just, it's a great, great series, and I suspect that this is going to be another great one. So, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's something I cannot look forward to. And when does it come out again?
July 27th, the same day as Teen Titans Go to the movies.
Oh my God! If that isn't counter programming, I don't know what is. That is
Right?
the literal definition of that. But
Yeah.
so that comes out in July, and I'm looking forward to it. What I'm not looking forward to is the next one. Listen, I just saw Jumanji yesterday, right? And I still like Dwayne Johnson. I think he's got some gems in the pile of dump that he has in his career so far, and he will get better. I actually have faith in the man. He will get better. However, when your 2018 is filled with Rampage and Skyscraper, we might have to sit down and fire your agent. Now, with Skyscraper, it's basically Die Hard if he did not have a leg and he had a metal leg. I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit funny when Dwayne Johnson was jumping, illogically, by the way, and using his metal leg to hook onto stuff. It's not supposed to be funny, but you know what? I'm a sick bastard. And I laughed at that because that's literally how the trailer cut off at the Super Bowl. Was the last shot with him throwing up the metal leg. And I'm like, this is a parody. There's no way this is real. There's something happening in a skyscraper. Dwayne Johnson rips his shirt open because, it's in his contract now. His muscles show. He's running off of walls. I don't know, breaking through glass. Jumping from cranes. Yeah, it looks pretty dumb. And that's really ironic for me to say because I appreciate dumb action movies. Joel throws up in his mouth every single time I mention Fast and Furious and how much I love that franchise. But I don't care about this one. It's from the director of San Andreas. I thought San Andreas was whatever. I don't know. It looks like Die Hard on crack, and it doesn't appeal to me. I'm sorry. I like Dwayne Johnson. I believe in that man. He can do some good stuff. But this Joel is just not something I want to see.
Well, guys.
Oh, here we go.
We completely disagree.
Okay, so I don't want to ever hear you say that Fate of the Furious is a terrible movie then. Because if you're going to back this up, you are done with that argument, sir. You are done.
By the way, This is not a movie from the director of San Andreas. The Rampage is. This movie is from the direct. Right. Yes, this one's from the director of Central Intelligence, and We're the Millers. So.
Okay, but do you blame me though? They literally come out with like a month of each other. It's he's starting to bleed in his movies now.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but I think that this looks like a blast. Hey guys, guess what? So this is news to y'all. The Fate of the Furious is a terrible movie.
Okay, you said that a year ago, and it still stings.
Yep. Yeah. Well, this literally looks like the same exact kind of stupid, dumb fun that you think that those movies are. I don't know. I had a grin on my face the whole time I was watching this trailer. I think it looks incredibly silly, obviously, but it looks terrific. Really, I mean, visually unappealing, but looks just like terrific fun. I don't know. I'm probably going to see the movie and forget it within a year unless it's White House Down 2 or something, but because then I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. But yeah, I had a blast with this trailer, and I can't wait to see what's up with this. I'm super excited. But
my response is sure. Just sure.
Sure. All right. Well, guys, we disagreed on that one. All right. Our next trailer is for a tiny, small indie movie that comes out in May. It's called Solo. And the full title to people who read trailer titles as the real ones is Solo: A Star Wars Story. So you might have heard of it.
I thought it was a prequel to Duo.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, guys. It's late at night, and you have to appreciate good dad jokes. I'm not even a dad yet.
Hey, Chase, you're fired.
No.
Okay, so Solo, this one is going to tell us how Han Solo became Han Solo. Of course, it became very famous for having its directors fired 2 months into the production, or I can't remember, maybe 6 months. I can't remember. And then Ron Howard stepped in, and now they've actually got a movie for us that's coming out in May, last weekend of May. And they released a trailer for Good Morning America the morning after the Super Bowl. And yeah, so I think it looks fine. I mean, I think it looks fine, and I'm saying that as a Star Wars fan. I'm excited for all Star Wars, just generally speaking, like on default, um, by default, I should say. But it looks fine. It doesn't look at all necessary in any way, shape, or form, but it looks like it's going to satisfy as a fun little diversion. I don't know. Um, Strangely enough, I'm more excited for Skyscraper than this movie. Generally speaking, is in terms of like, you know, I'm excited for it as a Star Wars movie, but there's really not much that's notable here. We see Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. We see Emilia Clarke as whoever she's playing, and that was neat. We get to see the regular iconography of the ship and all that. It just looks fine, not overwhelmingly positive or really negative. I think it looks fine. So there you go. Have I repeated that enough? Sorry. Chase, do you even care about this?
Okay, here's the deal. I say this because I care about Joel and the other Star Wars fans. But if they keep making movies like this, because I'm assuming the whole movie's going to be like the trailer where it's just like, it's fine. If they keep going down this route, it feels like they're taking advantage of like hardcore Star Wars fans and the fact that they can kind of just pump out mediocrity and get away with it. And I want them to keep... It's inevitable that we will get a Star Wars movie every year. I'm comfortable with that. That's fine. It is what it is. But they need to try just taking more risk. I think that's why I like The Last Jedi, because it was something new. This just looks like it's formulaic, comfortable. It's not going to really take any risk. And I'm going to go ahead and just say it. The trailer itself is fine. The visuals are nice. The cinematography is really good. My issue with the trailer is it's Alden Ehrenreich. I don't see it at all. Now, when he was cast and he was brought up as the front runner for Han Solo, I was like, sure, I'll give any actor a shot to convince me. That's their whole job, is to convince you and manipulate you into thinking what you're watching is not them, but the character that they're playing. So I was like, cool, I'll give it a shot. Maybe he can convince me. But just seeing him in action, hearing his dialect and the dialogue that was actually coming out of his mouth, I did not see it. Yeah. That's my only real issue of the trailer, is that if your lead character can't convince me of the character I know who he is, from Harrison Ford, and just that character in general, he didn't seem like Han Solo. That's the weird thing. Take the Harrison Ford out of it, and because I don't want him to do a straight up impression, but even just the character himself, I didn't feel like Alden Ehrenreich was portraying a smuggler. I felt like he was portraying this dude that was walking on a space sidewalk, and Lando goes, yo, let's go on an adventure. He's like, okay, fam. And they get into a ship and go. And it's like, okay, I don't know, Joel. I'm just kind of like whatever with it. Even with Rogue One, the end result of that movie was whatever. But the trailer, I was like, that looks like it could be good. So at least like that one got me excited for the eventual, final film. This one just like, I honestly could care less if I see it.
Yeah,
it's kind of embarrassing, because I'm just like, I love The Last Jedi to where I'm like, okay, now I'm back on board, and now you kind of take 2 steps backwards.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. For me, it's like I'm invested. I'm in this now, so
True.
I'm obviously going to be excited on the basis of the fact that I'm going to see Star Wars stuff in a Star Wars movie. But, there's a lot of people with strong feelings, and I can't imagine a world in which this deserves any sort of strong feelings, to be completely honest. It looks
it's very safe and neutral.
Yeah, it looks like a very serviceable movie that's going to service the fans well. That's exactly what serviceable means.
Honestly, do you know, like, exactly how I just described this trailer is exactly how you will look at me when I get ecstatic over, like, a comic book movie and you go, it looks fine, I guess. Like, that's exactly how I feel when I look from the outside in as a Star Wars casual fan and an outsider. I'm just like, it looks like a generic trailer. I don't understand why people are losing their minds over it. But then again, I can understand when people look at me and go, why are you excited for that comic movie? It looks like trash. So I get it. It's like you said, you're invested in this universe already. It's kind of hard to detach that excitement a little bit. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it does. Disney has not had a good Memorial Day weekend in like 5 years, because the last 2 years was Alice in Wonderland 2 and Jack Sparrow Pirates of the Caribbean 506. So, and they have had terrible weekends. So yeah. I don't know how this is going to do for Disney, but at Star Wars it'll probably do a little bit better, to be honest with you, but we'll still see. Now, this last trailer is not called what it is called at the end of the trailer. It's actually just called Tom Hardy gets knocked in the head with a piece of wood, goes to a hospital, and has flashbacks. Because you could honestly call it that, and it wouldn't make a damn difference. This was not a comic book trailer. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Venom trailer. That's exactly what the trailer was. He's in a hospital, freaking out, and they have flashbacks of him running around in a city, people talking. That's all it is. It is one of the most ultimate teases I've ever seen in my life of a tease. It's a tease of a tease. It's not even a teaser. Like, what was this? Sony, what are you doing? This is your opportunity to diverge yourself and create this own universe. Now, the animated Spider-Man movie, that looks great. But what was this? I love Tom Hardy to death. And the Venom movie itself is already a okay idea, and Tom Hardy will make me want to go see it. But what was this trailer? What were you advertising? What were you showing people that had doubts on this property? What about that trailer was going to hook them? Absolutely nothing. Like, that was like a generic ass trailer with Tom Hardy having some vague voiceover that could literally be plopped into any movie trailer. And it just ends. I'm like, you don't have to show Tom Hardy in the suit. I get that. Save it for the movie. I care less about that. Show something. Show the black goo rising up and it looked like it's touching something. Just anything. You didn't show anything. You hyped this trailer up to basically go, hey, this movie exists. We'll see you in October. Goodbye, asshole. It's like, okay, so I felt like Sony inappropriately touched me, and now I got to go to HR now. It's insulting. All right, Joel, as a comic book fan, I feel strongly opposed to this because it's not a trailer; it is an announcement. So, how do you feel about this? What Sony calls a teaser trailer for Venom. Oh, and side note, I absolutely hate the font and the color of the title. It looks like metallic BS that you would see on the back of an 18-wheeler. Why is it colored that way? Why is it metallic and why is it shiny? It makes no sense for the Venom character. It makes no sense for the design of the poster. It is asinine. Fire your graphic artist, designer, whoever the hell made that, because that's not... What was that, Joel? It looked like... You know on the back of 18-wheelers, they have the metallic, testicles hanging on the back. That's what it reminded me of. I was like, you're basically telling us that this is your metallic testicle movie of the universe. That's what I got.
Metallic testicle movie. All right. Y'all should know that my favorite time of year is when Chase gets righteously indignant. Okay. I have two thoughts. One, this is a very, very, very generic trailer. And two, it's kind of a brilliant marketing move. And I know that Chase is plotting my death right now, but here's the thing. We're so accustomed to a trailer for a superhero movie or whatever, comic book character movie, to show us the comic book character in the suit or in the garb, whatever, the get-up. That when something like this comes along, it's very disconcerting, to where I'm not at all surprised that you're having this reaction because I totally understand it, especially given the fact that the trailer itself is very generic. But I think it's kind of brilliant to tease audiences in this way because the story of the movie is its existence. It's not any trailer that's going to be released. So people who know who Venom is are going to know kind of, okay, this is kind of where this is headed. But people who don't are going to be wondering what he looks like and waiting for the next trailer. Of course, I think that they kind of shoot themselves in the foot in that way because you have to have this trailer be a good trailer, and it's not, so it's sort of mixed feelings on my part. I don't think it looks very good or intriguing, but I think that this is kind of brilliant to whet their appetite by not showing them anything of value yet. And
and that's what I was saying. Like, you don't, even for a teaser, you don't have to show like the actual transformation of Venom, but you could at least allude to like I said, the goo or just something.
Yeah,
they showed nothing.
I guess you're right. There is a bit of the kind of the thesis missing, if you will.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, for people that don't know what this is, they have no idea what Venom is when you look at that trailer. How is that supposed to explain to anyone that sees 2 movies a year what this movie's about?
That's a good point. I don't have any like super strong feelings, to be completely honest. I think that Tom Hardy looks fine. Kind of looks out of his depth to me. It's weird, but we'll see. We've seen that picture of him bald in the role, or shaved head in the role. So it'll be interesting to see him go from what we see to that. But yeah, I don't have any hugely strong feelings about this. I understand.
There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I understand why you do, though, about the fact that there's nothing to talk about. I don't. I'm not as angry. So that's all.
I think I'm more angry at the fact that they did a piss poor job to explain this to people that don't know who Venom is. I'm like, these people that want to take a risk and take a chance on seeing something different from the Sony universe, your first trailer has to be a good representation. Do you have to show everything? Hell no. I'm cool with that, and I'm actually on Joel's side with that. I don't really like to see that much. But you have to explain what this is. What I got from the trailer was a generic Tom Hardy shaking in a hospital bed with some fast clips and some generic voiceover that could literally be plopped into any other trailer. That's where it infuriates me. It's like, you could have done a little bit more. You don't have to show anything significant. Just show a little bit more of what your movie's actually about and get people intrigued so they can go, Tom Hardy's in a superhero movie. That sounds interesting, but unfortunately, I don't know what the movie's about. So that's where it loses me. Now, granted, I was talking to my girlfriend about this. This trailer is a piss poor job to announce it, right? But the movie doesn't come out until October. So they do have another chance to redeem themselves in the summer, and maybe people will forget about this. That's what I'm hoping, is that they forget about this teaser and they come out with a better trailer in the summertime. Still don't show anything, but a better trailer to kind of highlight your movie and sell it a little bit harder to the non-comic book people, and also people that are comic book fans. Try to entice everyone, because that's the whole point with these movies. So that is it for the trailers, guys. Joel, please don't tell me that Skyscraper's going to be your favorite.
By far, I'm just kidding. It's Mission Impossible.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. All right, so that is it for the trailers, guys. But please let us know down below, what is your favorite trailer of the week? I am curious on that, and please let us know. Now, guys, our movie of discussion is something that Joel and I will go into depth on. It is not something we're going to skimp on. We're not going to just say, patriotism, good stuff, good movie, and then case closed. No, I'm going to go into vast detail as to why this movie is garbage. It should have never been released, and it should have never been made in the first place. I'm going to go into explicit detail for every single section of this movie, so all those people out there are going to fire back at me and say I'm not patriotic and I hate the military. That's a bunch of bullshit, because I'm going to tell you right now why I hate the movie itself, not the actual story behind it, not the actual heroes. I'm not attacking them. I'm not attacking the story. I am attacking Clint Eastwood and his filmmaking capabilities for this, whatever this was. Because I honestly don't know what I watched. I was so infuriated when I left the theater. I was actually astonished by what some of the people said around me. I was by far the youngest person in that audience. Most people that in there,
so
the
was
average
I.
age.
So was I.
Exactly. So Joel knows exactly what I'm talking about and exactly the crowd that Eastwood can gather. And I walked out of that theater, and usually someone that works at the theater will stand there at the door and they'll ask, "Hey, how was the movie?" This woman behind me, no joke, she just said, "It's whatever." And she was in her 50s and 60s. And it's the same exact audience that went to go see Sully, an American Sniper, in his recent efforts as a director. So I was thinking to myself, wow, maybe this is the one movie to kind of snap them out of this fake patriotism that Eastwood likes to tout. Now, I will just start off by saying this. Obviously, the show is not a political show. And I know where Eastwood stands on his policies. Joel and we don't need to really say anything. We will just say that we are on the same page for the most part in terms of policies and stuff. And so we know when we see like an Eastwood movie, there's going to be certain things in there that's going to appeal to his viewpoints. And I've started to notice that with American Sniper. And it just seems like it's getting worse and worse. And that's why I had to open up this review with the people online that will give this movie a pass because of its patriotism. And for the people that are calling this movie out for what it is, they're getting attacked saying that they're not patriotic. That's not the case. And I don't understand the logic in that because Joel and I were about to go into detail as to why this movie does not work on any level for the most part. And I'm going to try my best to explain that to you in thorough detail. So, Joel, before we break down this mystery of a feature film, can you explain to the people at home what this movie is about?
Yes, and actually, I probably should have told you this before we started recording. I'm going to sort of steer us in a bit of a new direction in terms of how we approach this review, because I think that this is a movie that assumes three things, well, kind of four things, but three main things of its audience. And I'm going to have us kind of break open each of those things and analyze them. All right, so this movie is, of course, the 1517 to Paris. As Chase has said, it comes from director Clint Eastwood, and it tells the story of Spencer Stone, Alex Garlados, and Anthony Sadler, who were three men on a train from Brussels to Paris in August 2015. And they thwarted an attempted terrorist attack by a single lone terrorist, an ISIL sympathizer, who had brought onto the train 300 rounds of ammunition. The attempted attack was over in 7 minutes when they actually managed to subdue him. And so I basically kind of told you the end of the movie. The movie is actually about the lives of these three men. So this is where I'm going to bring in, before I even get to initial thoughts, either mine or, well, we've already heard Chase's, so my initial thoughts. All right, this is a movie that assumes three things of itself and of its audience. The first thing is that this is what we have to start at because it's kind of the baseline expectation of this movie is that it assumes this of its audience. That this story is worth telling. That's the first assumption. Mm-hmm. So, for my initial thought, I believe that in the moment of the attack, the scene itself, I think that Eastwood kind of does prove that it is a worthy story to tell in some way. I think that it's a very intense story. It's one with like a happy ending, and it was over very quickly. But given the right approach, I think that it could have worked. And I think that he proves that with some level of showmanship through the editing of that sequence. And I think that the performances are finally actually kind of mostly okay.
Well, and I was gonna get to my my little positives that I have, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Exactly,
I mean, it's
what you just
pretty
said.
much it's pretty much the obvious one. I think Mark Dusick, one of our previous guests, said it pretty well. That you kind of wonder if he's lost his, whatever made him a great director before until that scene. That kind of gives you a hint at his showmanship and what he's able to do. So that's the first thing, and that's pretty much my positive. I think that the scene is played well. And that's kind of what I'm getting. That's why I'm having us answer this question first, because we both think that it's a positive. The scene itself does work. That there are things there that are tense. The editing is precise, and the scene plays out with no music, which is a good decision, and a lot of intensity. It really does feel authentic for the period of time in the movie when the attack is occurring.
Yeah, it's a competently edited sequence, and there's actual emotion there. There's actual intensity, like Joel said, and just as a kind of a little bonus thing, I was actually kind of shocked that they got away with some of that violence in there, because they showed some pretty graphic stuff. I was like, this is PG-13, fam. Like, I didn't realize we could show that stuff, but yeah, as far as the actual attack goes, it's literally my only positive. I have one other one, but it's just by default. Because it's just weird. Because that sequence, what would you say, like last 10, 15 minutes of the movie?
Yeah.
So
yeah, about that.
During that time, I was like, wow, this movie could have been something. Because, granted, these three gentlemen who actually were a part of this.
Hold on. Just go move past that, because that's another one of my assumption things that I'm going to talk about. Don't give that away yet. I know that that's like a given part of the movie, but don't talk about that yet. Keep going with your point, though.
Okay.
Just trust me on this. I'm leading toward something. So anyway, I just didn't want you to give away that part of the movie yet.
Yeah, and I guess just to put the structure of this movie in perspective, it's exactly how he edited Sully, where it's a lot of build up, and then the actual event itself is really well done. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just really confusing as to why he took that approach again, because you're sitting there frustrated, and then when it actually starts to kick in, you start to become interested. But once you're starting to become interested, the movie's over, and it's a little too late at that point.
Yeah. So that's basically our positive. All right, and I think that my other positive is not something that I have to get to later particularly, but I think that the actresses who played the two of the men's mothers, Jenna Fisher and Judy Greer, I think that they were pretty good. Their dialogue is.
I will say I agree with you on one of them. Okay. My only other positive is that Judy Greer was the best actor/actress in the movie.
Yeah.
And yes, the dialogue was horrendous, but
the dialogue was dire. Yeah. All of the dialogue in this movie is dire. But
which by the way, and this is not an excuse, but this is her first ever screenplay, and I am not in favor of that, because it seems like when you watch the movie, it was like a first draft, and I was like, where was the editing in this? But anyways, but yes, Judy Greer, and I will even say Jenna Fisher in some glimpses. They were competent actresses delivering the best that they could, as contrast to what Joel's about to bring up, and they did the best they could. So, and I because Joel is always correct when he tells me I can be angry at a movie as much as I want, but I will never give a movie a flat out F if the movie just fails at every category. I can't sit here and deny that train sequence at the end was well done, and Judy Greer was a highlight, even though what she was speaking was atrocious. But she was decent, and so those are actually the end of my positives.
Yeah, there we go. So the second assumption is that we are going to be interested enough in the lives of the three people who thwarted the attack to follow, basically like in a How I Met Your Mother fashion, almost every single detail of their lives up until that point. Now, that's not quite true here because there's a long stretch, obviously, where we don't know. Well, really two stretches. But we do get the details regarding their childhood, when they met as children. We never see one of their parents, Anthony Sadler's parents, to my knowledge. And we only really meet the mothers of the other two boys, both of whom come from divorce or separation of some sort. But, obviously, as I said, the parents that we see are played by Judy Greer, who plays Spencer Stone's mother, and Jenna Fisher, who plays Alex Scarlato's mother. And then, let's see, we see their childhood in a weirdly fascistic Christian school, where we get to see three comedic actors who never are not distracting. Those include Thomas Lennon, Tony Hale, and Jaleel White as faculty at the school. We get to see how, sort of they were raised there. And then it kind of jumps forward to the end of their high school years when Spencer Stone is trying to become an Air Force paramedic rescue. Paramedic rescue? Is that pararescue? Whatever. And then Alex Scarlatos becomes joins the army, and Anthony Sadler does stuff. Because literally,
he's a civilian, basically.
He's a civilian and doesn't appear to do anything of note. I'm assuming he probably does stuff of note, but the movie doesn't tell us about it because it completely forgets about him for long stretches. And then, obviously, it kind of leads up to the actual attack, which came at in the midst of a European cross-continent trip that they took in 2015. So that's the second assumption, and it does not work because I'm not interested in their lives, to be completely honest. There's, some vaguely interesting foreshadowing in Spencer Stone's life that makes him learn some of the stuff that he's capable of doing later on, and certainly Alex Scarlatos was able to, use some of his army history to do this stuff. But that's all that we needed to know. We did not need to see them order gelato for 2 minutes while on this trip. We did not need to see so much banality in their lives. It does not work, and that's my first kind of really big negative, is that this movie is boring. It is tedious and uninteresting to find out the ins and outs of these people's lives because they were split-second heroes. They did something pretty big and they're heroes, but that doesn't make them interesting characters in a narrative. And so that's the second assumption, and I think it's completely wrong on the basis of this movie. And that's what we're talking about. Again, as Chase said, we're talking about the movie. It is an act of screenwriting. It might be written by one of their mothers, and it might bring up the other thing in a second. But it is a movie with characters, with a plot, with a narrative that demands some sort of analysis. And this movie does not provide that. It doesn't provide any insight into these men beyond biographical. And some of the hints at like a philosophical insight don't really make them look all that great, to be completely honest. They're young men. They lust after women a couple times in a way that causes Eastwood to perform some upskirt cinematography, which is really weird. And, it just doesn't work at all. It doesn't get off the ground. And that is the second assumption. So Chase, without going into, again, because I'm leading up to this, without going into the details regarding the three men, like specifically who plays them, go ahead and kind of rip this open, because I know that these are probably where many of your thoughts lie. So.
Absolutely correct. So to touch upon the boring thing, it absolutely is. It is completely unnecessary to show them growing up And like you said, we're not even joking, there is one scene in the movie that will highlight the major issues of focus and editing, and that would be that really long, pointless, almost like home video vacation footage of them ordering gelato. Like, that whole scene will show you the problems with this movie and how they had to pad out this runtime for, like you said, like this event that in real time took about 7 minutes. It's the same exact thing with Sully and how it was put together. But the difference is Sullivan was a pilot. That is interesting because this is a man who hadn't really seen anything like that. He experiences something crazy like that. That's a story that could be worth telling. Unfortunately, with these three characters, one of them is a civilian. I did not know that, and that kind of irks me because the way this movie was portrayed and the way it was kind of hoisted up with these three men in the military. And I hate to break it to you, but them being in the military does not matter. This is a movie about an event, about three guys that did an act of courage. And I just hate the fact that Eastwood is putting, that viewpoint and hitting it over the head and making his statement when in reality you're padding out the movie with this and it really doesn't make a difference. Yeah, maybe Spencer Stone's character learns that stuff in the Air Force. That's fine. And that the event, that's what helped save that man's life. But I just felt like them growing up, seeing the military, them going on vacation, it did not matter in the grand scheme of things. It honestly didn't. And it's the lack of focus and editing from Eastwood who's the main culprit of this entire movie. Because it is his job to, one, get the best performances out of the actors, and two, to competently put together a story that will make sense for a theater experience. And when you're putting your viewpoints ahead of the actual story, it comes across as sloppy and very just technically deaf, and it's just frustrating because you know that Eastwood has some talents in this movie. It's just I don't know what he was thinking. Like it almost seemed like he was an autopilot and he was off his rocker, and it's like I don't know what happened. I guess other points with that. To go with the I'm sorry, I got their names open because I want to get their names correct. Anthony Sadler, you're absolutely correct. They focus on obviously to just call it like what it is. Spencer Stone gets the most character time, and Anthony and Alec are kind of shoved to the side. And you're right, Anthony is there, but it's like they don't really highlight really well like what he does in the certain event, and he's kind of, like you said, left to the wayside. And that's also another problem with this movie is there's a lot of stuff that's brought up, whether it be plot points or characters. They will kind of just come in and go as they please and not really have any impact over the overall story. Another point, to go with the whole gelato scene, Joel, do you remember the woman that accompanied them on a dinner and that gelato excursion? She was basically introduced as if she was going to be this main character, and she was just dropped off.
Yeah.
Off the face of the earth. I was like, that is, once again, a prime example of just a nugget of a problem, but highlights all the other problems with this movie and how just incompetently it's made and put together as an actual story. I said the same thing when I reviewed Sully, and I know I keep bringing this movie up, and I probably shouldn't, but there's the similarities to this are just eerie. The actual event in Sully, I think, was around the same time, right? It was like 5 to 7 minutes, and my whole issue was, how are they going to stretch this? It pretty much suffered from the same problems. The only it was better acting. I will just say that, and that's why it was a little bit more competent. But I just don't want to see him go down this route in terms of making his future movies like this, where he'll take a small event that has great heroism and courage and pad it out into a tone deaf type movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, and I completely agree with all of that. I think, and that kind of leads me into this third assumption, and it's kind of what we've been, dipping around the entire time. So, after assuming that we're interested enough in the story to see it, which I think is kind of the right assumption, and after assuming that we're interested enough in following the lives of the three Americans, actually, because there were in reality there were 7 people who thwarted the attack, not just these 3. And the movie completely erases, or almost completely erases, everybody else from the equation.
Which is ironic because they actually make a joke about that in the movie with a certain World War II fact, and I was like, it's almost like they're talking about themselves, scrubbing away history.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The movie assumes that we are interested enough in these lives to see the men play themselves in these roles. And actually, they are not the only people who play themselves.
Nope.
Do you know who else plays themselves?
If I remember correctly, I believe it was the other passengers, right?
Not all of them, but the couple. The man who gets shot was actually the man who was shot, and his wife. Yes.
Because the thing was, I did a little research on my phone when I was bored right before the movie started, and I was reading exactly what you brought up, where it was like they brought in some of the actual passengers as well. Yeah.
And so here's the gravest miscalculation. Here's the thing, guys, and by guys I mean Spencer Stone, Alex Garlatos, and Anthony Sadler. You're heroes. There's no doubt about it. No question in my mind the fact that you thwarted an attack from a guy who had 300 rounds of ammunition for a machine gun. It's pretty amazing. Because even on a train, it's hard to stop that. And the fact that you did so means that you're heroes. What you are not are actors. And that is by the evidence in this movie. The delivery on each of these people's part is so wooden and completely unbelievable that it's hard to believe that you're witnessing it.
Well, you know why the actual attack worked in terms of an editing standpoint? Because they didn't speak.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it was just all about the physical, and obviously, anything physical in this movie that they're asked to do, in terms of actual physicality, they pretty much they're able to do that. You think about the scene where there's a possible shooter on the base, and Spencer Stone, kind of grabs the pin and moves the desk in front of the door and all that. He commands that scene because it's a completely physical moment. And he'd done it before, probably, and he knew how to perform that. But the dialogue in this movie is already awful, and so you have to have, this great actor and a director who does more than one take at a time to be able to sell it. And Eastwood's style is usually one take and you're done. So maybe he stretched it a little bit here. I don't know. There's no evidence of that. But in any case, it does not work for a second. Also, sorry kids, but you're terrible. The kids who play the younger versions, none of them work. There's that one that plays the younger Spencer. Keeps performing his dialogue as if he's at a table read. And is reciting dialogue that he has not been told how to deliver yet. That's my feeling there. So you have to get more experienced actors. You have to put them with a supporting cast that's not made up of comedians with nothing to do, and in order to sell this story, it's an urgent story. And that's another thing. It's told with such lack of urgency. It's ironic that they are telling a story about one guy who goes into the Air Force, because I was almost in the Air Force and I went to Lackland, which is where he goes at one point in his training, Spencer Stone, and they're all about urgency, move with urgency, and this is a movie that moves with the opposite of urgency. It's 94 minutes and it feels like it's 4 hours. It is so slow until the attack. It's so dull. And yeah, so anyway, those are the three assumptions. I think that the movie kind of half proves one of them. So I guess that's a 0.5 out of 3, whatever, however you want to put that. Yeah, I don't like it. So I'm going to let Chase go into what he thinks of the performances from these three men.
Okay. Here's the problem, folks. Now, I could be contradicting myself because Joel is way smarter than me, and he can actually pinpoint certain things I've said on past episodes. So I don't know how I reacted.
I remember every word.
It's true. It's kind of frightening. I don't remember what I said when I originally saw the trailer to this movie, like when the first trailer came out and we talked about it. I don't remember what I said about casting the real life people. But my thought process has always been this: if that's the route you want to go and you want to take this huge gamble on it, I don't agree with it. You want to take a gamble on it? Prove me wrong. Unfortunately, the acting was already going to be okay at best, and I was thinking maybe under Eastwood being a legend and being as iconic as he is, maybe he can draw something out of him. But when you are paired with some of the worst first draft, like Joel said, table read dialogue, you throw it into these people's mouths and have them speak it when they have never acted before, it makes them look even worse. And that's insulting, because what these guys did in real life, I'm not talking about the movie, I'm not even this does not go into the review. What these guys did is something that I do not have the courage for. And I will always respect people that have that type of heroism and can risk their lives like that for random strangers on a train or wherever an event like that takes place. But when you are having these people who live through the experience and you're having a movie being portrayed about them and their acting looks really bad, the dialogue sounds horrendous, the way the movie is structured sounds bad, it makes them look bad. And that's more insulting to me than the actual film itself. Because these guys have to live with the fact that the movie that was portrayed about them in this event that took place is really bad. It's a bad movie. And so I feel bad for them, honestly. But Joel brought up a good point that I haven't seen anyone or many people bring up in their reviews. Yes, the three main leads, atrocious. And to be quite frank with you, Spencer Stone showed the most potential out of the three. The other two did not improve one bit throughout the entire 90-minute runtime. With Spencer, it was kind of weird because it looked like he was trying a little bit better, and I was like, it's coming through, and nothing. But what Joel brought up is exactly what I was thinking while I was watching it. I would actually make an argument that the kids are even worse. Like, it's actually, the casting in this movie is baffling. Because not only are your three main leads the three people that live through it, they're not even actors, and they're the three people that we're supposed to follow. Okay, that's strike one. Strike two is hiring comedic actors, primarily comedic actors, as you're supporting, and you don't believe anything that they're saying because the dialogue is stilted, and their performance just seemed completely off from the type of tone that they're trying to go for. That's strike two. And strike three, I don't know where the hell they found these kids, but they have to go back to training. Like, I don't know who is teaching them acting, but it is not coming through. Fire your acting coach or whoever's teaching these kids, because the kids are, like I said, arguably even worse than the adults, only because it's hard for a kid actor to come across as genuine and something I can believe. But man, was that rough. The introduction of the kids was cringeworthy, and I was like, oh no, this is how it's going to be. It's not going to get any better. And I was right. The whole time, it just keeps getting worse.
Did you notice that, I can't remember which one it is, but one of them has a poster for Letters from Iwo Jima on his wall?
Oh, God. Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, that's the funniest thing in the entire universe ever in history.
Because no kid actually had that, by the way.
No kid. Well, watched it. First of all,
maybe someone that actually served in the military during the actual event might have one, but not a kid.
Yeah, probably not.
But no, the kids are atrocious. It's really bad. Casting, acting, that whole department is just it just bastardizes the entire movie. But once again, bleeding into the positives, when these guys were not speaking and they were portraying the actions as if they were reliving the train over again, that was fine. But I think this should just be a lesson to never hire people that are not actors, because it makes them look bad. It's awkward for us to watch, because I hate using that word to describe a movie, but this movie is awkward from the way it's put together and how it goes from their backstories and has fast inserts of the train in current time and then goes back to their growing up. That's awkward. The way the acting is delivered is awkward. The dialogue being delivered is awkward. The way the movie looks is stale, and it almost looks like an insane asylum. Like, it looks like a hospital. Like, it's all bright fluorescent lighting. It's weird.
Tom Stern is a great cinematographer, and this does not look like it had a cinematographer. No. Did you see the shot of them at the car at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah.
Like when it was introducing randomly by voiceover.
Oh my, that was a terrible introduction to those characters.
It was terrible, and then it gave up the voiceover. But that shot, oh my gosh.
It looked like the introduction to a YouTube rap video.
Yes, it did. That's exactly what I was thinking. Maybe not rap video, but a YouTube video. That's what I thought of. That's exactly what I thought of, particularly when it goes between the seats and it's showing Anthony or whoever it was in the back seat, and it's like between the two in the front seat. Absolutely awful. And yeah, it's really an off day for Tom Stern. I think he does great work a lot. And he should basically scratch this off his resume. Like, I believe much. Everyone should. Like, I feel embarrassed for everyone that worked on this movie. Honestly, besides the end of the movie and maybe Judy Greer being the most decent out of everyone, this movie fails in every single department. Like, even as something as poignant as the way the movie ends and the music, it's all. I hate using this word again because we used it last week for Winchester, but it's lazy. It's lazy filmmaking. Like, I don't understand. I'm going to go and just give it up. A D- for me. I'm not going to give it an F because that end sequence is tolerable. But D- for me. It is, when Joel told me, when Mark got out of the screening and said it's one of the worst this week, that was frightening for me to walk into. And believe it or not, he's correct. It is one of the worst movies, not only of this week, but definitely one of the worst of the year so far. And that's really hard for me to say, considering the subject matter and given what the director. And the director. I mean, he's
it's embarrassing. Like, it's really bad.
I'm giving it a D+, and maybe that's generous, and maybe I'll probably lower it at some point. But that's what I'm stuck on right now. I can't like completely abhor the movie in any way. I think it's well-meaning, but its brain is in the wrong place. Its heart is maybe in the right place to tell the story in general, but they go about everything wrong in terms of the point of view. And the method. Like, if this had been, and I want to say this because I don't want to give anybody ideas that this is the movie I want, but kind of a this is such a weird comparison, but a Murder on the Orient Express kind of thing, where you follow like all of the people on the train, and the whole movie takes place on the train, and then you still maybe have the three people play themselves, but amidst a bunch of actual actors that can kind of bounce off them. That might have been really interesting. But here you have just a biography of, one and a half of the lives, and it doesn't work. So yeah, D plus is where I'm at.
Yeah, I was on the verge of, because I was just seeing red at the end of the movie. I was just like, I wanted to give it an F, but like I said, Joel, implants this little virus into my head going, listen, if a movie deserves an F, that means it fails on every single count, and I can't say that honestly because this movie does have some good to it. I won't say great, but there's some good.
Be fair, Chase.
I will be fair, and hey, I was fair. I didn't give it an F. I gave it a D minus.
Yes.
It was really close, but
yeah, it's definitely one of the worst. I've seen several movies this year, a good good couple dozen just about, and it's one of the least of those for sure. Probably like number 3 or 4 or something like that right now if I were to have a bottom 5. But yeah, pretty bad. And all right, guys, so that's our ratings. Tell us what you thought. Tell us if you're going to brave this one. If you're not, we totally understand, and that's what we would recommend, not doing it. But let us know if you do see it, what you think. If you disagree with us in any way, let us know that, because I'm curious. Our next movie, or my next movie, is going to be The Cloverfield Paradox. This one comes from director Julius Onah. It's his first movie as a director, and it is kind of 2% a Cloverfield movie. And let me tell you why. Guys, all right. Here's my history with the Cloverfield movies, because I wasn't on the podcast even in any respect when 10 Cloverfield Lane came out, so I don't really think I've gone through this. I'm a huge fan of Cloverfield, the first one. I think it's a really good movie that people kind of underestimate now. And here's the reason that I love the movie. It stands alone. And I'm not saying that as some sort of backhanded thing toward these other movies. It stands alone because it's a human story about a group of people who are tied together by their humanity during a freak occurrence, and it's a completely hopeless ending, completely hopeless, utterly and totally hopeless. And did I mention the word hopeless? That movie ends on the death of everybody on Earth, or well, I guess everybody in Manhattan. Whatever. Yeah. Completely hopeless, no hope in that movie. That's why I liked it. I thought that it was nihilistic, but also very surprisingly deep within the 84-minute frame of being a fake home video that happens to capture all of this stuff. It's one of the best to use that gimmick, I thought. So I really liked it, and I kind of liked 10 Cloverfield Lane. I know that Chase is a bigger fan than I am. I like the first 90 or so minutes, however long it is. I don't remember how long it is, but the first, everything in the bunker is great. And then the ending happened, and I felt like it was a screenplay that was that stood on its own until somebody decided that they would introduce a Cloverfield element into the end, and it kind of gave up. So I don't like the end, but I like the movie overall. I think I gave it a B minus or a B or something. That's about where I was. I love John Goodman. I like the tension. So obviously, when this was announced, not announced last Sunday, but announced in general that there was going to be another movie, I was intrigued. I was like, okay, this will be pretty cool. So yeah, this is another situation like 10 Cloverfield Lane, except exponentially more irritating. All right. So the story of the movie itself takes place at some point. I don't know when this movie takes place, to be completely honest.
I think it was like, wasn't it like 2038 or like 2022 or something like that?
It might have been.
It was definitely in the future of like from 2018.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Here's the thing. It's positioned as a prequel to Cloverfield. Cloverfield has a timestamp that tells us that it takes place in 2008. So, or 2007, I think. So I have no idea when this movie takes place. All right. So, the story of this movie is that the Earth's energy is being completely wasted away, and the only way to save it is that there's this big spaceship thingy that is sent into space, and it can inject energy directly into the Earth's atmosphere and keep it going. And otherwise, I mean, you're looking at the decimation of the entire human race, the entire world. That was slowly kind of rot away and just, basically do what the sun was going to do to it billions of years from now, but slower. So that's the plan, that they send scientists up in space in order to direct that laser, or, the energy beam, I guess, toward the Earth to save it. And the team is headed up by a woman named Hamilton, played by Gugu Mbatha Rao. And she has this team, played variously by David Oyelowo, John Ortiz, Chris O'Dowd, Ziyi Zhang,
and David Brule.
Axel Henny. Pretty good cast. Most of them wasted, but a pretty good cast. And things get really, really weird when suddenly, after a freak occurrence, it seems that the Earth has disappeared. And that's all I'm going to say. Because there's some really freaky stuff in here. And so, my positives, sorry, because this is a negative review. My positives. All right. Generally speaking, I think that this is a neat plot. I think that something like this, there's a lot of really clever horror setups that are established for the different, I'll just call them gags for the movie, because there's a bunch of weird stuff that happens, and they are all related to sort of space, hate saying dimensional travel, because that kind of sort of gives some of it away, but it doesn't really, because there's more to it than that. There's a lot of stuff that happens materially from that, and it causes a lot of really clever horror setups that I won't give away here. But I will just say that that's only half of that statement, and I'm going to reveal the other half in my negatives. It's a clever setup. All right. So then the other positives, the performances are solid. Even if most of the characters are kind of wasted on by the machinations of the screenplay, I think that Daniel Bruhl in particular is good. Of course, Gugu Mbatha Rao, she's like a national treasure. I want her in every movie. But in terms of everybody else, the supporting cast, Daniel Bruhl's good. Chris O'Dowd has some fun, although he got on my nerves a little bit. David Oyelowo's good, but he's not really given anything to do, really, except for just be the co-captain or whatever, the captain of the ship, I guess. And then I will say that Elizabeth Debicki comes into the movie for some reason and knocks it out of the park. I think she's actually the best in the cast. There's a lot of real potential in her character. And she is a trooper. It's a very weird role, and she does a lot more with it than the screenplay gives her character to do. And it looks good. It's a sleek, solid cinematography. It looks fine. A lot of this stuff is very dark. It's not lit very appealingly, but certainly it's slick. It looks professional. And the visual effects, pretty solid. Not the most polished in the world, but they're pretty solid, especially the stuff around the ship. It's not Gravity level, but it is. It's it's solid. It's solid work from a visual effects company who knows what they're doing. And yeah, I mean, I think it generally plays out fairly with a fairly fleet foot. It doesn't seem like it's too long. A lot of people thought that it felt long, but I didn't think so. I thought that it felt short, actually. Um, but yeah, I mean, so that's a good thing. It certainly moves with urgency. Speaking of which, and yeah, so those are my pretty much my positives. They certainly um, direct the movie away from awfulness. It's not an awful movie. It's professionally produced, acted, and made, and that's very clear by everything on screen. So, getting in my negatives, which are the things that bother me the most about the movie. The number one big red flag is the fact that it is the most annoying process in the entire world trying to figure out during every second how this is going to connect to Cloverfield. And to find out by the last shot, which I won't give away, that it doesn't connect except for that shot is infuriating. And that's actually why I came away so negatively at first, is because this and 10 Cloverfield Lane had the same problem. These are stories that are not actually Cloverfield stories. This is technically an anthology because it purports to take place in the same universe, but in every other respect than the denouement of both movies, it actually isn't a story that has anything to do with anything else here. And we don't even actually know, because of this movie and Cloverfield, where 10 Cloverfield Lane takes place, or even if it's even connected. Anyway, I won't go into that anymore. But I will say that the last shot is infuriating for that reason, and for another reason that I can't go into, literally cannot, without just basically very vaguely hinting that there seems to be something about a continuity with another shot from another movie in this franchise, that this there's a descent to earth, let's just say, but then the immediate shot after that completely negates the idea that there's continuity. Anyway, yeah, infuriating final shot. It's going to probably be a while before there's a worse final shot this year, if at all. And yeah, so that's the big major red flag. There's really no connection, and people trying to expect that there is going to be one are going to be disappointed, even more than I was. So that's the big thing, is that it's annoying to try to connect this to two other movies where there's really nothing to connect them to it. The other thing is that for all the clever setups of the actual plot, the narrative of the movie, it basically comes up with the most generic payoffs. This movie ends with a childish chase through the hallways of the space station that they're on. And before that, it's just oh, this is a neat thing, and then it becomes just a generic jump scare essentially, and or just somebody is knocked off the cast. And that's basically it. It's just repetitive. It's a theme that it keeps repeating, and it's very frustrating. So that's basically my two negatives. My positives, I already gave those to y'all. I just am kind of split in half on this movie. I think that there's a lot of potential that is unrealized by this movie. And so that's why I'm going to be giving the Cloverfield Paradox a C. That's just middle of the road, very, very much split down the middle. So there's my review, guys. Let me know what you think about it, whether you disagree, particularly about whether this actually is a Cloverfield movie despite its title, because I'm curious to know what everybody thinks about this. And yeah, so I know that you gave it a C+, so we're kind of in the same boat.
I will. All I will say is this, because honestly, this movie is really hard to review.
It is very hard to review. It's the usual, mystery box or whatever it's called. The is it mystery box? I think it is. Anyway, that J.J. Abrams produced movies tend to have. A lot of them don't really bother me. A lot of people, they bother people, but It doesn't really bother me. I think it's a neat idea to have stuff, like that. But here it's just really straining. And
It's one of those things to where I could summarize it perfectly as a fan. I like all three movies. Obviously, this is the lesser of the three, but the ideas presented in this movie is best served as like a short film that would
yeah,
explain the Cloverfield universe that you would attach onto the Cloverfield DVD, which is
yeah.
I'm fine with. And like,
Well, but that would imply that there's any tangible connection, and I don't think that there is because it's telling a self-contained story until literally the final second. There's nothing on that space station that is connected to what happens in Cloverfield.
and you
Like
are absolutely correct. They are very
they're completely separate.
yeah. No, I actually believe all three of them are in their own separate universes, but still connected through the events
Well,
of this one. But the problem is, you are correct. They are terrible at conveying that until the very end, when I think they could have done it a little bit better. But the reason why I'm okay with it is because it works well as a decent little space thriller, and the ideas that are presented do work better as a short film to explain this kind of direction they want to go with it, because it is kind of fascinating. I mean, we're dealing with a lot of different sci-fi elements at once, and you could make this into like this grand franchise, and that's where I see the potential going. But they were very like I said, they didn't portray it very well in this one, and I think that's what infuriates people like yourself, because what you're saying is exactly what I've been hearing from other people. If they would have explained it a little bit better and tied it in a little bit more clever, then it probably would have come across at least just decent to people. But yeah, it's got issues with it, but the eventual potential of the franchise is what I'm excited about the most. And the can of worms that they've opened up with this one is awesome. I think it has potential for some really great science fiction, and that's just my viewpoint. But it is what it is. It's definitely really hard to review without spoiling anything.
I will say I'll add on a positive, and I don't want to be super like specific about the scene or what it involves, but I will say it involves a stretch of wall, and it has an awesome punchline. And it was really cool to see that, because I've never seen anything like that before. I'm certain that I have, but in a while at least, I haven't seen something quite like that before. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it's a really cool scene, and it's played well by the actor who's going through that. So, in any case,
just one quick thing about, and this has nothing to do with the review, but as I was watching it, I can see why it was dumped on a streaming service, because it was not. It did not feel like a theatrical movie to me. It felt like something that would be fine with streaming.
Yeah, it felt like an Amazon original thing or whatever,
It never felt theatrical once.
Obviously, it is a Netflix original, so I can't say that it felt like a Netflix original, because it is one. But but it felt like something that's made for DVD, or made for streaming is now the new
Straight
DTV,
to DVD.
DTV, and it feels like something that would have come out direct to video,
Sure.
in 2009 or whatever. Yeah, certainly it didn't feel very cinematic to me. A lot, I mean, despite the sleek look,
That's
it
as far
did
as it
feel.
goes, though.
Yeah, that's pretty much as far as it goes. There's not much scope. There's a lot of interior filmmaking, and that's a sign of a limited budget.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Well, I mean, because they make these, they take the Jason Blum approach with these movies. They cost like $5 to make, and they gross a lot of money. That's how they do it.
yeah, pretty much. And they'll obviously, with Netflix's like state secret confidential kickbacks program, they'll make their money back. But we don't know how. We don't know
trust
how.
me, they will do fine. I am not worried about them. If this is the way Paramount wanted to go with it, they cashed out with a great payday. Netflix is going to do well with it. Business wise, cool, good on them. And also, as a final button, when you watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, do you realize that Elizabeth Debicki is hot in like gold paint, and you're like, she's an attractive woman. I'm not gonna lie. This is the first time I've seen her without makeup. And first of all, she is tall, and that is
6'2".
He's 6'2", by the way. That's what Joel was telling me when I was watching the movie. I was like, damn, she is a tall woman. But she is my new Hollywood crush. So I just wanted to announce that because I was like, Elizabeth Debicki, you first of all, because Joel's right, she's definitely the best part acting wise, and then she looks good without her gold makeup in the movie. So I'm just like, yeah, I hope she stays around for a while.
And speaking of her acting, I want to say like people are definitely crowding around Gugu Mbatha Rao for a reason. She's been great for years. If nobody's seen Beyond the Lights, and nobody has because that movie barely made any money, go find that and watch it. She's great in it. It's a really good movie.
Yeah, and
she's terrific in this. She's a mother who's grieving the loss of her children, and that's certainly an interesting idea in the movie. I don't really think they go anywhere with it. But the things that Debicki is doing with her character are fascinating to watch. You can't keep your eyes off of her for reasons that are both connected to, yes, she's very pretty, but also the fact that you can see the gears behind her eyes turning at every second.
Oh, I know. It's like a great blend of just paranoia and pure curiosity from our perspective.
And
I'm just like, what is going on?
She's acting a lot with a face that is sort of like a Scarlett Johansson face. There's a lot of stony kind of quality to it, like out of a painting or something.
Yeah.
But she's conveying a lot through not moving anything on her face, and it's sort of a Tom Hardy kind of quality. And so I'm excited to see where she goes. I know she's been in stuff, but this and her brief role in Guardians of the Galaxy, which
as
was
the gold leader. I just call her gold leader,
which was all in gold paint. Kind of harder to see her face in that. She's doing very interesting things here. She's going to be in Widows. Which I can't wait to see her in something a little more indie serious. It's going to be very fun. So I love her to death already, and I can't wait to see her in other stuff. All right, so Chase, this weekend at the box office was one of the least. I mean, despite the fact that this weekend's movies made money generally, this was one of the least eventful weeks for the box office I've seen in a while. There were no huge rises or drops. The biggest rise, I'm not even going to tell you the movie, but the biggest rise percentage-wise was 89.3%. Like, we usually have, in the hundreds, but nope. All right, so I'm going to give you the 3 hints that you have for the top 5, and those are the 1517 to Paris, of course, 50 Shades Freed, and Peter Rabbit. So, of course, as always, remember, things that have opened in the past, and take your guess at the top 5, sir.
Now, I'm not good at math, Joel, but I will tell you that I will score at least 40%. Because I know for a fact, just based on franchises and popularity with certain demographics, 50 Shades Freed is number 1, Peter Rabbit is 2, and this is where I am just going to start guessing. Jumanji 3, 15 to 17 Paris, number 4, and I'll just throw an Oscar one at number 5 and say, I don't know, maybe The Shape of Water poked in there or something. Or no, wait, excuse me, I take it back, Hostels.
Oh, you were even farther away with that guess.
Whoops,
all right.
There you go.
So you got 4 on the list right, but you got only 2 placements right.
Oh, hey, didn't I just tell you 40%?
Pretty much. So let's, I guess, lead into this. Hostels dropped from number 6 to number 12.
Oh, wow.
With 2.7%, 2.7 million, for a total of 25.9 million.
That's actually really good for that movie, by the way.
Yeah, it has an unlisted budget, but I'm pretty sure that I heard it was somewhere around like 20 million, so it's doing pretty good. It's definitely an indie. It's not one that cost a whole lot to make. All right, so number 5, dropping from number 4 to number 5, is The Greatest Showman with 6.4%. I keep saying percent, 6.4 million, and it only dropped 16.8% this week, for a total domestically of 146.5 million, and worldwide it's at 314.2. So it has an $84 million budget, and it's making money. Why do you people go see this movie? I don't understand it. All right, then dropping from number 1 to number 4 is Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle with 9.8 million. It only dropped 10.1% this weekend. So domestically, it's at 365.7, and worldwide it's at 881.8. People, go see good movies. Go see movies that are better than Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. For instance, our next movie, debuting at number 3, slightly better than Jumanji, The 1517 to Paris, with 12.6 million. It has a worldwide total of 17.9, and it has a $30 million budget. So it's not going to do very well. I can't see this making the American Sniper money.
I'm sorry. Where did that money go?
I have no idea.
Where did 30? It was probably for their travels to go to Europe. Like,
yeah,
seriously.
probably so. I mean, it was essentially a paid vacation through Europe that they already took. Like, think about that for a second. All right. So number 2, debuting, of course, at number 2. You were right, by the way, about the top 2. 25 million for Peter Rabbit. It has a $50 million budget. So it hasn't opened worldwide, I don't think. I think it's only opened here thus far. So we don't have any worldwide numbers. But yeah, $50 million budget, $25 million at this point. That's not great. Not great. It's got to make... Man, it was advertised like crazy. It's probably got to make, what, 150?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And, going back real fast to 1517, 30 million, 60 million to break even. And then, I don't know, I'd probably just round it out to maybe 80. Well,
to be honest with you, I'm not really sure about that one. I would peg it anywhere from 80 to 100.
Yeah, I'm going to say 90 just to, times it by 3. I'm just going to say that because I feel like they probably spent about as much to advertise as to make the movie.
That's probably true.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say 90 to remain safe, and that's not good. Not a good total. But yeah, Peter Rabbit's got to make probably 150, and $25 million is not – I mean, it's not like a bad – start, but it's not a good start either, especially for a family movie. Yeah, I know Sony has 2 movies in the top 5, and they're doing way better with Jumanji right now. All right, and then at number 1, you were correct. People decided that the toxic relationship wasn't enough to deter them from seeing the final movie in the 50 Shades franchise with 38.8 million. 50 Shades Freed is number 1. Worldwide, it's already at 136.9, and it has a $55 million budget, so it did really well. And the franchise topped $1 billion. So I don't know. I've never had any interest in these movies. I don't know what is in the water. It literally began as Twilight fan fiction, and I don't understand it. So whatever. Ladies or people who saw it, mostly ladies, whatever you see in it, I applaud you for seeing that thing, but I don't understand it. And
Joel, you basically just have to tell people that are into that franchise or the Twilight franchise or just any franchise that you and I will never understand the popularity for. I always tell them this: you do you, and then we move on. We just move on with our lives, Joel. You do you. And we move on.
You do you, boo. All right. Yeah, that's basically it. Again, no weird rises or falls or any other news to relate to you. So, there you go. Oh, and right. I guess Shape of Water, even though that was your first guess and you didn't stay with it, I'll just say that it stayed at number 9. It stayed in its place.
Yeah, it still stays in there, especially with the nominations that came out.
Yeah, exactly. It just funny because it stayed in its place. Um, with 3 million, made 3 million this weekend, which is
It's
great.
not bad.
I'm glad people are seeing it. It only fell 32.6%. So I'm very very happy about that. It's a great movie. Y'all should go see it.
Yeah, and the Oscars are coming up here in a couple weeks, and so that will just boost those movies up even more. So, thank you for the box office, Joel. It was absolutely lovely. So yeah, that will do it for this week's episode. Episode 217 is done, y'all. So Joel, I mean, you and I were talking about it, and I just don't think that we should cover big movies anymore. So, what small movie are we going to be reviewing next week for 218?
We're going to spend 3 hours talking about Looking Glass, which is
Yes,
the
yes.
new Nicolas Cage movie. Okay, couldn't even get through it. Next week's episode, the main review is going to be, of course, Black Panther, the new MCU movie, the first one to feature a black superhero in the major role and an almost entirely black cast. Great, great stuff. Can't wait. And I've been hearing amazing things. Chase and I have both been hearing great things about this one, so cannot wait. I am so excited. I know that y'all know this though. It was on my top 10 most anticipated of the year. So I'm just quivering in my boots for that movie. I don't know what that means, but there you go. And then
I don't think people understand it, Joel, because I'm the superhero fanatic out of the both of us. But
that's true.
People don't know that, one, you love Fruitvale Station, and two, Creed was your number one of the year it came out, so you are
Yes.
even more stoked than I am.
I'm an enormous Ryan Coogler fan. Like, of major black filmmakers right now, I'm probably like
Him and Barry Jenkins.
Him, Barry Jenkins, and Ava DuVernay. I mean, I'm just excited to see whatever they make.
Yeah. Oh, and Steve McQueen.
And Steve McQueen,
Yeah.
exactly. I was about to say that because he's been probably the best filmmaker of those.
Mhm.
So, in terms of like just great filmmaking, the level of it's probably McQueen for me. But I love Coogler. Creed is a masterpiece. I love that movie. I'm going to be watching it again this week to amp up. And yeah, I can't wait. And then I'm also doing an extra review for Early Man, which is the new Aardman animation film that I can't wait to see.
I'm actually excited for both of those movies.
Yeah, I'm excited. It looks silly, and it looks exactly like the silliness that we need right now in our world. Because sometimes you just need some silliness, man. It just looks so fun and funny and cute, and yeah, I'm excited for it. So
I really hate the fact that Joel was a trickster and just lied to you all. We are actually going to be talking about Looking Glass, the new Nicolas Cage movie. So
Yes.
whatever he just said was a complete lie. All right, but no, Black Panther will be next week, and then Joel's Early Man review. So it's Black Panther, y'all. It's coming. So I'm ready to talk about the newest edition in this growing universe, which I cannot believe it turns 10 years old this year. All right,
yeah,
so
it's
that
crazy.
will be...
I'm going to be doing, by the way, the big, like before Avengers comes out, starting the week of March 2nd, I believe, there have been 9 active years out of those 10 for the MCU, because remember, they didn't have one in 2009.
Correct.
So starting that week, if you want to do, and this is what I'm doing, if you want to do something for each of those weeks, like in terms of, the first week, watch Iron Man and The Incredible Hulk and so forth, that's a great plan.
Joel, my girlfriend and we're already on top of that. We're
really?
we're already in phase 2. Like we wanted to try to do it all before Black Panther.
Yeah,
but
man.
we're not quite there.
Probably not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was not factoring in Black Panther into my plans. I know that a lot of people were, but I just couldn't fit it in. I was like, well, it'd be out of order in any way.
Yeah.
So I just decided to try it, after, and that's the plan that I came up with. And I would, recommend it to people. It seems like a rock solid plan to just watch them in order. Mm-hmm. And even the ones I don't like, so I'm going to have to sit through Iron Man 2 again.
Hey, we had to do the same thing. I don't want to hear you complaining, so you just have to trudge along through them, okay?
That's true. That's true. All right, man. Well,
yeah, that'll be next week, and I can't wait to talk about that. But in order to get to next week, we have to end this episode. So where can the lovely people find you online?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Real Joel Copling. That's REEL. And on Letterboxd at J Copling. Very active there. You can find some of my writing, though not this week, but you know, relatively, basically you can just find some at DallasMovieScreenings.com, for which this is the official podcast. And then you can also go to my website. I reviewed not only the 1517 to Paris and the Cloverfield Paradox, I also reviewed Braven, Living Among Us, The Music of Silence, and Scorched Earth. You can find out what those are and what I thought of them by going to joelonfilm.com.
That is correct, and you can follow me on Twitter at RealChaseLee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel where you can see other reviews that I do, like my Bilal review, which is blowing up, and a lot of people call me a racist in the comments section.
Nice.
That's always fun. So you'll get to see reviews like that and other smaller stuff. And you gotta give it up to Joel and Brian. They got me on the whole letterbox thing. So I try to blurb out my grammatically incorrect statements for each movie that I see this year. So if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, you can do that. Let's see. And I guess this podcast, we're on iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spreaker. We're everywhere. So please let people know this is a definitive movie podcast, and you guys just absolutely love it. So join us next week for one of the bigger episodes this month with Black Panther. It will be a lot of fun. And let's play the outro music, which is done by my friend's band Fervent Roze. And guess what, guys? All the links will be in the description below in case you forgot something. All there. We will see you guys next week. You guys are badass. Keep it chill. Bye-bye.